And welcome to the official SBK Cheltenham preview, the one that you've all been waiting for, and delighted that the band is back together again. A bit like John Gainford and Hewitt next week. Tom Collins on one side, Ross Millar on the other. It was safely ensconced in the SBK Towers here in London, ready to get into the nitty-gritty of the Cheltenham Festival. I have to say, it is Wednesday today, but it feels like the longest week on earth from a Cheltenham perspective, as we've had more drama than you can shake a stick at. It has been one horse after another sort of falling by the wayside. It's will they, won't they run in certain races. So I'd say, Ross, it's been a little bit overwhelming trying to keep up to date with all your prep, really, because we're trying to wonder where you are and then something changes again.
Yeah, well, it's two horses, but it's two horses that have a massive effect on a number of races because, you know, Constitution Hill comes out means that maybe horses divert, like Irish Point from the stayers, Lottymouth maybe from the mares. And then as for Marine Nationale coming out, I mean, that just makes Willie Bingo in the Novice Chases genuinely impossible, I think, to try and fathom what he might do. I think he was getting around to the idea that perhaps Facile Vega isn't a two-miler. I now suspect he might slip back into that mentality and think maybe, just maybe, he'd be quick enough to beat what's left.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like we always fail to forget or fail to remember how much Willie Mullins Bingo plays a part in this time of the year. And Tom, I think this year feels like more than ever, it's been a little bit more, I don't know, slightly exhausting just to try and keep up with it, or, you know, we just sort of want it to get on with it now. Is it sort of felt a bit like that this year?
Very much so. I mean, I don't even like anti-post punting as it is, and having to look at all these races from months out. Yeah, it's good. You know, Cheltenham's fantastic and everyone looks forward to it, but Willie Mullins has such a stranglehold on all of these races. He basically controls who runs where, and he's the one that's not really telling us any information. So that's why it's been a bit frustrating. I really like Marine Nationale, so when I did my prep on Monday, that had to go, and I had to rewrite all of that. Obviously, Constitution Hill saga. We'll get more into that when we talk about the champion hurdle. But yeah, it has been a bit exhausting. I'm still looking forward to it, though. Yeah,
certainly. And got to say, it is the 4 greatest days of national hunt action that we have globally. So we have got some great selections. I think after doing a lot of work, you know, it's great to come up with hopefully the goods for you all. But as Tom has rightly mentioned, it's not just about where Willie Mullins is sending his horses, it's about where other trainers will send their horses because of where Willie Mullins will send their horses. So we'll get into it. But before we begin, if you're a new customer today for SBK, you've just come along and you're joining the ride for the first time, you haven't got involved with SBK before, we do have a new customer offer. It's bet 10, get £30 in free bets. New SBK customers can claim £30 in free bets for the Cheltenham Festival when you sign up and place your first £10. T's and C's do apply. We've also got some more great offers as we go throughout the podcast, but we're going to get cracking on the first day, the Tuesday, opening day, the race where everyone roars, and the race where I'm going to breathe a great sigh of relief that we're over and we'll know who's actually in the lineup for this race, because it is about whether Ballyburn for Willie Mullins, who's essentially the best novice hurdler we think that we have on either side of the Irish Sea, where he's going to run. Will it be here, or will it be in the now recently renamed Gallagher's novice hurdle? But I think, Ross, at this stage, Wednesday the 6th of March, we're a few days out, it feels more likely that it's looking like he's going to end up in the longer distance race. So it's going to give maybe a sort of a weaker feel to this, and maybe we'll figure out where we're at. How do you read it with that in mind? Do you think Ballyburn is going to go to that other race?
I think he's definitely maybe going to the Gallaghers, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, it's been quite noticeable that the exchange markets get things right. You know, they're the first ones to tell you a horse is not running because they drift. It looks now very much like he's going towards to the Gallaghers, which is a shame because I think this is the best race for him. I think he's just a really strong, travelling, quick horse. If he goes to the Gallaghers, it is definitely a Willie tick towards Tully Hill and Mystical Power, and it's a Paul Townend tick to Tully Hill, and that's maybe more relevant because Paul is the one that's trying to ride as many winners as he likes. So it's difficult, isn't it? If Ballyburn turns up, I think he just wins this, and he wins it comfortably because they're going to get soft ground on day one. Certainly, it might dry out later in the week, but it's not going to be any slower than soft on the first day because they don't want it to be anyway. So I think Ballyburn is the right favourite. I think if he goes here, he's the nap of the first day. Tully Hill, I don't like. His jumping on his debut was woeful. I'm not sure Mystical Power jumps much better. TC's got a great price about Jerker Dreppen. He put him up at the start of the season. So if you're on him, that's a nice position to be in, a decent bet. You've got Nicky Henderson form, etc., and is he good enough? But lump sum, I think, he beat him last time. Okay, it was a bit scrappy, but he's since franked the form in the Dovecot. I think if Ballyburn doesn't go here, I'll try a couple at a price. Tell her the name. Has been really good on good ground. Had Keelan Woods on the Tuesday podcast the other day. He said that the ground at Aintree was the worst ever ridden on. Soft, angler. He said how I was beaten going past the stands first time. He just can't hide his excitement about this horse. And he has looked good. He has looked quick. He's got to step up. But everything in this has got to step up if Ballyburn doesn't run. It makes it very open. And if he happened to come over, and I think he's unlikely to, because I think it is going to be too soft for him, Daddy Longlegs, a big price. I liked what he did on good ground, and I think the ground has gone against him the last twice by Al Manzour. I would be interested in him at a big price if the ground dried up with the sun that we're going to get.
Yeah, 70-1. Yeah. That's not too bad. And tell her the name 16-1. Ben Pauling's been very much vocal about how he's just throwing as many darts as he can at this race. And Ballyburn, as you say, wherever he does go, he's a good thing. But I think, TC, in a way, because we don't know where Ballyburn is, do you think it's actually helping the prices of some other horse in the race, and especially the horse that you've long been interested in, and you've heard it here first? If you didn't hear the National Hunt podcast at the start of the season, there was one horse that you were excited to see, and he hadn't even run at that point, and that is Jericho de Repenay.
Yeah, to your point, I think the fact that Ballyburn is still in the reckoning for this race is definitely holding up the price for every other horse. I mean, they are probably a point or two shorter than they would be if Ballyburn was certain to run here, but they're still higher than they would be if Ballyburn's definitely confirmed for the Gallagher. Look, I think Ballyburn wins very much like Ross if he runs in this race, but I don't think he will. Obviously, Jericho de Repenay is my anti-post, 18-1. I think he's currently 7 or 8, so managed to get the value there. I know people weren't happy with him last time. I was at Cheltenham that day. Obviously Cheltenham's on the same time, and I was in the another bookmaker shop on site, and it was a huge crowd because it was like the first race or the second race of the day, and the dismay from punters in there was it was crazy. I actually thought he ran very well. He did very little right. He was hanging all the way. His head was to one side when Mark Walsh was asking for any kind of effort. He was on the wrong lead as well after the last, yet he still beat lump sum, as Ross has touched on, and the form has been franked. I understand Nicky Henderson's form is not good, but I still think he's a major player in the race. I mean, when you look at the past 10 winners, Willie Mullins and Nicky Henderson dominate. So if Ballyburn's not running here, I, like Ross, also don't like the other two Willie Mullins horses, Tully Hill and Mystical Power. So then I'm looking at the Henderson horses, and Jericho de Repenay has done nothing wrong, in my opinion, so he has to be the play.
Yeah, and as you say, 7-1, anti-post 18-1, and he probably will shorten if Ballyburn is out. I think we can all agree with that, and I think that he's the biggest obvious horse from a UK perspective. But as you say, if you want a bit of value, tell her the name and Daddy Longlegs if he gets on the boat. And I don't even know, probably the owners know that. Yeah, and it will be probably Saturday. So that's it. That's the opening race, the Supreme Novice Hurdle. A bit of a uncertainty surrounding it. There's probably a bit more certainty around the Arkle Chase. It has been sort of thrown a little bit wide open now that Marine Nationale picked up that injury. He's out for all the spring targets. It's a real shame for the Barry Connell team. But the betting was very confident that he would make up for what he did last time. And the horses that were behind him in Found 50 and Elete Tomp have now obviously gone right at the top of the market. And Tom, Marine, you've always been a Marine Nationale fan.
Yeah.
Obviously disappointing from your punting perspective, but would you be confident that the horses behind him can sort of show off how good the form might be?
Potentially. As you say, Found 50 and Elete Tomp are kind of, I mean, they hold the form, don't they? They're basically Marine Nationale, but without the high-class potential that Marine Nationale had. I hadn't backed Marine Nationale at this time before we realised that he was going to be out, but I would have definitely bet him at 11-4. I thought that was a really good price, actually, for a horse who's only had one below-par run in his whole career, and he travelled like a dream in the race. He just didn't pick up. He kind of blew out, didn't he? But, as you say, he's not in the race now, so it's irrelevant. So I was looking down the field, and Elete Tomp, this is going to sound crazy. This probably isn't the first crazy thing I'm going to say.
Yeah, we love it. Go on. Let's go mental.
I don't like how he aesthetically looks when he jumps a fence. It really puts me off. I know he's small. He's very small and he's compact, and with the hood, I don't know. Yeah. There's a lot of aesthetic things that I don't like there. It's got nothing to do with his ability. Of course, he's a very talented horse, but it just puts me off. I can never be really in his camp. Found 50, good horse, but I don't love Gordon Elliott's form right now. I think I read Ross's piece earlier this week. 11% strike rate recently. Not good. There you go. Little shout out for your piece. Check that out on the SBK Betting Zone. So I was kind of just looking for something else. And Hunter's Yarn was the one I came down on. You know, he's got a super high cruising speed and he's an accurate jumper. I think he does make a mistake every now and again, but he can be an accurate jumper when he gets into a rhythm. And they're the kind of things I look for in an Arkle. Someone with a lot of speed, a horse with a lot of speed and a horse that can jump well. Hunters Yarn's got it. He beat Stafford very comfortably at Navan back in December before falling at the last where he was going to beat him anyway. Didn't beat him, obviously. And I think if he just repeats that or his last out victory, then he'll take this race, or at least prove very difficult to beat.
Yeah, he's a horse that I think didn't go unfancied in the county hurdle last year, where he ultimately disappointed. He just hasn't been overfaced, whereas the others, Pertemps for Willie Mullins, found a 50, has been given grade 1 options to really see his levels. He's probably slightly overlooked it that way. So interesting section there. And I think there is value around now, Ross. It seems to be a race, bit like, remember the likes of Duke de Ginevra's win, where anything could really win. I don't think it's a vintage race now.
Yeah, you said a bit more certainty. I thought, hang on, what way should we go about? I thought we were going to the Arkle. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with TC in that Marine National looked really good on debut. I didn't think he travelled. I thought his jumping got him in trouble in a better race. But, the suspensory injuries, they don't tend to blow out. Suspensories can go niggling away for a long time. So it's entirely possible that he's been feeling that since that poor run. I think this is tricky. I'm like TC, il était temps. I wouldn't use a big word like aesthetically, but I can see what he means. He's a bit small. He doesn't really grab you, but he's tough. But I can't get away from the fact that Gaelic Warrior absolutely pulverised them at Thurles. Now, I know it's over 2 mile 3, but Gaelic Warrior beat them at 1 mile 5, 1 mile 6, 1 mile 7, 2 miles there. Found a 50 I don't like all that much. I'm not keen on Gordon Elliott's form particularly. And I don't think he got mugged at the Dublin Racing Festival. I think he just got beaten because he had the run of the race. Let's try and make up a lot of ground. It does depend which way you look at it, but I don't think they went so hard that he was stopping. So I'm with TC. I think Hunters Yarn is really exciting here. I mean, if you take Marine National's form, this Hunters Yarn beat Firm Footings by further than Marine National did. I think he's really smart. He's really quick. The concern is he did bomb out last year. I like horses that come back and have Cheltenham form. Put up JPR1 at an anti-post price. 16 to 1. He might be a bit of a Duke Ginevran, and if he wins it, it's a bit of a subpar, but he's very solid. He jumps, he travels. So I'm happy with that position. Hunter's Yarn for me. If Gaelic Warrior goes here, and I don't think he will, and I know it's on the old course, which is turning, and he jumps out to his right, but I've watched a lot of Gaelic Warrior racing back, and when this horse is punched down to a fence forward, he's straight. He really is. It very slightly adjusts right. He's going to be ridden more aggressively if he runs in this, and that would perhaps help his jumping, but then he's on a left-hand turn, so I can see the appeal of the new course. But if he goes here, he'll definitely carry some of my money because I think he'd be the best horse in the race, and I would happily take my chances, but Hunter's Yarn, I think, is a solid one.
Okay, yeah.
One more thing on Hunter's Yarn very quickly. I mean, if Gaelic Warrior definitely doesn't run here, and Facile Vega, well, it doesn't really matter, I don't think, if he runs, but Paul Townhend's probably going to ride Hunter's Yarn. I mean, he's ridden him 7 times out of 7 over hurdles and fences, and Ilete Tom's generally ridden by Danny Mullins. So if Paul's on Hunter's Yarn, I think he's probably going to go off favourite in this race. I really do.
Yeah, poor old Daryl Jacob. Does he get his options for the double green? It's funny, that one, because
I don't think so.
Sometimes he does. El Fabiolo, he certainly doesn't. But everything else he seems to do. But that is really interesting. Paul's got a lot of decisions to make, and it's whether if he really fancies it. Yeah, that will be quite a confidence boost. If you see Daryl on it, then you think maybe he doesn't really need to fight that battle.
I would say he wouldn't be in my top 10 jockeys of over the last few seasons. He's really improved this year. I've always had a problem with Daryl. I've always had a problem that he doesn't seem to make decisions. He seems to follow the race. Couple times this year, rather than proactive. Particularly on reading Tommy Wrong, for example. He made a decision and he rode his race come hell or high water for his benefit, and I quite like that. Improving quite late on his career. We should just mention Quixlos. Won a Triumph, has been away. I had Adam Mills, who's really hot on the French one on the podcast. He really likes this horse. For me, soft ground is going to be essential. I'm just not sure that the old course is going to suit him. I could just see him lacking a gear, maybe finishing quite well, but not perhaps being quite quick enough. But I've seen lots of people mention him, so we should give a nod to him.
I kind of feel there's sort of holes to pick out on all of these horses, really. It's one of the weaker novice chases, really. I think in terms of, we sort of know that these majority of the horses at the top of the betting will go here, but they have their downfalls. And Hunter's Yarn, just I think might, as you said, both said, might have gone under the radar a little bit. And Gaelic Warrior, if he ends up here as well for Ross, is one to note too. Okay, we'll move on to the Champion Hurdle, which has just really lost a lot of its je ne sais quoi after what's happened with Constitution Hill. He was confirmed he was going to be not participating on Monday by Nicky Henderson, and it's turned into Constitution Hill versus State Man to State Man versus Irish Point. I don't know if we need to spend too much time on this, guys, but does State Man just win?
Yeah, I think so. Quite frankly, I'm very bored of the race, Jess. I'm sure most people are. I mean, I understand all the news on socials about Constitution Hill, about the work. Absolutely fine. That's great. Great to get some communication. Great to know where punters should stand with him going into the race. I thought it was quite frankly embarrassing, everyone talking about betting when we had no idea what the actual implications of this poor work were. Everyone's saying State Man was a good price, Constitution Hill was a good price. No one knows. Yeah. Absolutely rubbish. People just looking for clout. I hated that. Now that he's out of the race, which is bad for a neutral, of course, and bad for everyone that wants to watch the best horse in racing. State Man should just win on class, but it's such a boring race.
Yeah, it does just blow out the whole anti-post, phenomenon, really. Just sort of wait until closer to the time, because anything can happen, as you know, Ross. These horses are not machines. I suppose it's really whether we're going to get a fulfilled for any each way value in there. I don't know if we necessarily even will.
No, I can't find straight away when Constitution comes out. You want a State Man. State Man will beat these by as far as Constitution will beat him last year. Distance bets aren't my thing, because when you can win easily, why are you going to drill a horse out all the way up the line to win by as far as you can? I don't see the point. I don't see a bet. Nameen Lion, I think, is if I was going to get given a free bet each way, I'd probably chance him on soft ground, because I think he's tough and I think he'll really stay. But it's a non-event. The sad thing is that State Man is a really, really good hurdler. In any other generation, he'd be top-notch. It's great that he will likely, when he retires, have a champion hurdle on his CV that he might not already otherwise have had. That's great, but he is always going to be seen as the Constitution Hill winner of the champion hurdle, which is a shame, because he's a really likable, talented horse. But yeah, it's a race I will watch and I'll enjoy it, but I'm not vested in it in any way, shape or form. Yeah,
it's lost its interest indeed. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the Mare's Hurdle. And I think the only horse that would probably add a little bit of intrigue to the Champion Hurdle is whether they were really punchy, the Willie Mullins, Rich Ritchie team, and just put Lossiemouth in the Champion Hurdle. I think we've done a lot of people spoken about this. I think it's the optimum race for her in terms of the trip. We know that she's very, very good over 2 miles. She showed that. She proved that at Cheltenham before. But it's all about the simpler option, Ross, is it?
Willie, I beg you, do not do it. Run her in this, please. Move Ballyburn by all means, but Lossiemouth, run her in this.
Why is that? Do you not think that she would just add a little bit? She's competitive. She gets a weight allowance.
Yeah, but I haven't backed her for the Champion.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, no, she would. But I do like that we always talk about the second tricky album of, 4-year-old going into 5-year-old juveniles. I really like that he's tried something different, very deliberately, kept both of his good juveniles, Garland Musso and Lossiemouth, back from last year, given them time. I think he would negate that, wouldn't he, by now pitching her in a very deep task against State Man. And yes, Annie Power won it, but she didn't go from a novice year to the Champion Hurdle. I think this is a smart thing to do. Yes, she's got to show she stayed, but when she won on Trials Day, that was 2 mile 1 on the new course. This is not even 2 mile 4 on the old course, sharper track. I loved how she travelled, and I loved how she looked. I mentioned at the time, I loved how she looked in the ring. Willie's horses often, even in March, don't look great in their skin. No. She looked amazing. Like, to the point I looked and thought, is that Willie's Lossiemouth? She looked really good, travelled beautifully, jumped really well, settled, which she hadn't done last year. I think she'll just kick these away. If it rains, Love Envoy is interesting. But when I was doing the piece that TC mentioned about trainer form, Harry Fry has had 1 runner in the last 17 days and it pulled up. That's a bit concerning. Like, why are they not running? He's got quite a big, I don't know if it's a small trainer just keeping them all back, fresh them up for spring, but he's a big yard, isn't he, to not have any runners? That would worry me. Brandy Love is talented, but she jumps, badly. I couldn't have her. Tell me something, girl, if you didn't fancy Lossiemouth at what is now a short price. Tell me something, girl was travelling really well when brought down in 2022. Went chasing last year, and I was amazed they persisted as long as they did because she hated it. I thought she took a big step forward in the Limestone Lad Hurdle last time. Stayed on, beaten just a length by Zarek the Brave, and they think he's quite a smart horse. She'll like the track. She will definitely stay. She's a decent double-figure price. She'd be interesting, I think.
Okay, 20-1 that you can get for Tell Me Something Girl could come in a little bit. Lossy Mouth, TC, is there a chink in her armour at all at the trip?
I don't think so. I think she's pretty much the banker of the festival, to be honest. She's not going to be my festival nap because she is a very short price, so I'm going to leave her out of the best plays. But I think she pretty much is the banker at around 8 to 15 or whatever price she is now. I was at Cheltenham, so was Ross, when she won the International, and she was excellent that day. I think she has an air of invincibility about her. Now, I know she's lost before, but she was very badly hampered that day at Leopardstown and probably should have won. So she should be 7 out of 7, and she definitely has the air of invincibility. Now, if you put her up against State Man, I think State Man would probably win. But against the mares, Lossy Mouth is way, way superior on what we've seen so far. I mean, there are some good types in there, Astro Diamond, Love Envoy, as Ross has said, but Lossy Mouth is just exceptional. I think she wins this race easily.
Yeah, she's already done it against a good quality level of boys anyway, and she loves Cheltenham. She really does. I'll be curious to see how they campaign her next year when she is a little bit older, a little bit stronger. Will they keep to just the female only company? It will be. They've had plenty of horses of this ilk. Benny de Dieu, who just kept in female company all that time, but Annie Power, they were able to be a little bit more creative with. So maybe next year will be the year when we can really see how good she really is. But Lossy Mouth, for everyone's perspective, is a real good thing. Now we'll move on to the National Hunt Chase, and now running in memory of Maureen Mullins, the matriarch of the Mullins family, and they will be keen to win this, and probably one of the races where Willie Mullins won't be at the top of the betting. It's Emmett Mullins, who has Corbett's Cross headlining it, and then Willie Mullins has got Embassy Gardens. And I think it's really those two. And one of the sort of names that's coming out of like the preview circuit, if you're following a lot of that, has been the confidence behind Corbett's Cross, a horse that I think Ross was severely unlucky to be brought down. I think fell F to his name is probably a bit unfair when last seen 4-1 on for a reason, wasn't he?
I don't get it.
Oh, really?
I love Corbett's Cross. I backed him last year when he ran out through the wing. And I'm, unlike some, maybe I'm pocket talking, I'm not convinced he was done with on that occasion. I've been bitterly disappointed by him over fences. I don't think he jumps particularly well. He looks like he twists in his middle of his body. It looks like it's hard work to me. I don't like the prep. You know, he's a young horse. He was in the midair and he got effectively torpedoed out of the air onto the floor. He wouldn't have had a clue what went on. All through my career with horses, when they make a mistake, fine by me, as long as they learn from it. You know, with my event horse, if they made a mistake and learned from it, loved them to bits, they can stay. If they made a mistake and then made it again and kept making it, someone else can ride them, thank you very much, because they haven't got the mental attitude to succeed. Same with racehorse. I have no issue with the horse making a mistake and hitting the deck if they learn from it, but he doesn't know what he's trying to learn from. He jumped a bit left and got thumped down to his right, so I don't like his prep, and I'm not convinced he'll stay. Like, I know when he's won over 3 miles, but he didn't look to me like he was absolutely going away at the line. I really like Embassy Gardens here. He was very wound up in the prelims last year and ran no sort of race in the Albert Bartlett at all, but I can see a reason. He got young horse, lit up, ran too keen, it's not going to stay that trip. He jumps brilliantly. He's relaxed. He's won twice over 3 miles. Okay, in small fields, he demolished the field in a grade 3 last time. Gets Patrick Mullins. Okay, Corbett's Cross is going to get a Derek O'Connor and get a good jockey as well. But I just think because he bombed out last year, people are really negative about that. And I think if you view them as chasers, Embassy Gardens is a much more promising chaser to my mind. One that I've had on my radar all year, and they've done a really good job in terms of picking up prize money, but not in terms of winning races. Kilbeg King, Anthony Honeyball. I thought he shaped like the best horse last time at Ascot in the Reynolds-Town when he was beaten by Henry's Friend. Sam Tristan Davis missed the last. The horse didn't miss the last. Sam did. It happened, and he was coming right back at the line. He's been brilliantly handicapped all year, and I was waiting for him to run him in a handicap over 3 miles, and they didn't. You know, he finished third in the Corto Star at Christmas. I think he'll stay. He will need the ground to be nice enough. He wouldn't want rain on top of what we've got at Cheltenham at the moment. He'd be an each way price for me as well if he runs, and I believe that Will Biddick is going to ride.
Yeah,
who's a good
what
amateur.
a booking, yeah. Anti Honeyball,
as good as the Irish boys.
Yeah, and Anti Honeyball had just a real standout season, and what a man, what a great, and he gets this type of ilk of horse into, he really does well with them. So I like that angle at 10-1 for Kilbeg King. So it doesn't need to all be about the Irish. We're going to do our best to upset them. Probably need to have some fighting talk back after that.
We've agreed too much already, haven't we? Come on.
I was going to say, we've obviously seen each other's selections just before we started this podcast, and we're going to agree a lot. But this one, I have the exact contrasting opinion on both horses.
Gloves out.
Yeah, Corbett's Cross. I understand it. I mean, last time he didn't jump brilliantly, and he did go out to the left. I agree with you. I don't think it was really an F, which is why I'm willing to forgive him.
I was going to ask.
I knew you were, because I don't like backing horses that fell last time. But he was broadsided. Like, you've got to put a line through that, surely. Prior to that, he didn't jump overly well on his other chasing starts either. But I don't know, Emmett Mullins is just such a wizard. I feel like he's going to get him to jump a lot better. Also, I think the slower pace they're likely to go over this kind of trip, left-handed, I think they're all positives for him. I do think he'll stay. I think this has kind of been the plan, the long-term plan. And Emmett, I mean, as I've already said, he's fantastic at placing horses and getting them to run their A+ race in that race that he wants them to. Embassy Gardens, I get it. I do, because he's trained by Willie Mullins. His form this year has been good. But his 3 victories, one over hurdles, 2 over fences, they've all come in small fields. You've already said at Cheltenham before he was very disappointed and he was lit up beforehand. I actually think that might happen again. Maybe I'm wrong.
Is this going to be a big field, though?
It's probably not going to be a big field, but it's going to be the atmosphere. There's going to be a huge crowds around the parade ring. There's going to be a big buzz going down to the start. I think he could get lit up again. It's always a possibility when it's happened once at Cheltenham before. I don't know. I'm not convinced by him. I think he's a favourite, or he was anyway, maybe a second favourite now, because of Willie Mullins. I think Corbett's Cross has the most proven form in the book. Maybe MC Gardens takes a step forward and beats him, but I want Corbett's Cross right now.
So it's a 2-horse race anyway for you. Yeah, Corbett's Cross definitely, it's got an RO to his name as well in the Albert Bartlett, where he was travelling so strongly and it was an absolute disaster running out. I think it was in the final hurdle of the Albert Bartlett, and he would have played a big hand, whereas MC Gardens pulled up with no excuses.
Exactly.
At all. So, they could be better horses now over fences.
And also, what price did they go off that day? I mean, let me have a quick look. So Corbett's Cross was 9-4. Yeah. Embassy Gardens was 8-1, but well backed. I mean, has Embassy Gardens improved?
Yeah.
You think he's improved and
surpassed
Corbett's
brilliant
Cross?
Jumper. And if you jump well, you make a length, 2 lengths at every fence.
For sure.
I think he will. I mean, it's quite interesting. I was talking to Emmett Kennedy the other day, and the race IQ data says that Corbett's Cross makes ground at his fences, which I was surprised about, but Embassy Gardens makes more. Going a slower pace, that might be negated because perhaps you're not going to be quite as aggressive with Embassy Gardens. But I think it's a really exciting race for the novices. I completely agree with you. From my point of view, I think Embassy Gardens is the better horse, but I'm fully aware that I'm taking on Emmett Mullins, and he's a lot smarter than me. He's a lot smarter than most people. He's definitely smarter than me. So I do get that completely.
So Embassy Gardens has got the stamina and the jumping technique, but Corbett's Cross has the class and possibly the potential.
Agreed.
So whichever you want to take, I'm finding it hard right in the middle of them. Can feel the tension. Right, we're going to move on from the National Chase, and we've obviously got handicaps on the Tuesday. The Ultima, which was one of the best races of the festival last week, throughout the Grand National winner, Fast or Slow, non-big genius. And we've also got the Boodles. So we need to have some fancies of anything in general. Ross, you're looking at me.
I've got a few. I mean, my best anti-post position is Chianti Classico. I started on him at 33s after he won at Chepstow. Got a little bit nervous halfway through the season when he started talking about Reynolds Towns and National Hunt Chases, but he is coming here. Kim Bailey's just coming back into a bit of form, which is nice to see. Didn't run well last year, but they found an issue for that. I think this track will suit. I think he's got a great chance. He's a shorter price now, but he's not a favourite yet. So if you've missed the boat, I still think he's a chance. The Gopher is interesting in it as well. He's £2 lower, finishing 4th last year, beaten 10 lengths, but Corrit Rambler is £13 higher, who won it. Fast and Slow, who was second, is £20 higher, so that looks like a nice piece of form. And Jungle Boogie, he's really lightly raced, 4 from 5. Only time he was beaten in the hilly way behind Al Fabiolo, and that was after 700 days off. Stayed well to win a Grade 3 last time at Tremor. He is one of these could be anything. You know, he's got entries in grade ones at the festival. If he turns up here, I would definitely want to be with him because he could just be a complete class apart from these. And then in the Boodles, at a massive price, Balboa, who has had more trainers than in this season than most horses have in their career. He's moved around a lot. He's now with Seamus Mullins, who's a really lovely, likeable guy, but he's a very capable trainer. He's 40-1. He's got good course form, and he will stay, and he'll like soft ground. If they go hard, 40-1, I can see him running into a place, if not a little bit better.
Okay, Jungle Boogie out of interest. I listened to a preview, and I think it was David Mullins, Mikey Fogarty, saying that when he was at Willie Mullins, one of the best workhorses that they had. Real engine, but he's obviously now at Henry de Bromhead, and he's had issues himself, but he's a fascinating one. I remember hearing that, thinking they didn't really disclose a lot of that type of information, so that was interesting. Okay. We also the Goffer and Chianti Classico, one that I really like too. So I'm pleased that there's agreement there. And Balboa also in the Boodles. For you, the Ultima TC, a race that you're looking forward to? Got anything in there for us?
I'm looking forward to both the Ultima and the Boodles, but I have no selections for you right now. These are two races that I will target when I know the final fields. Boodles, I'll look for something probably trained by Gordon Elliott or something Irish anyway. And the Ultima, I'll look for a horse that's a good price because the Jolly is going to be way too short after the news that JP bought Meeting of the Waters this morning. Yes,
Meeting of the Waters now with Willie Mullins, who has not got a good record here. In fact, the Irish runners have not done well in the race at all. They're 0 from 38 from the last 17 years. So this is our race from the UK perspective. Okay, that's fair enough. I've got a couple along with Chianti Classico from the Boodles. If Eagle Way gets into the Boodles, I think he needs 10 to come out. He could just about sneak in for Gary Moore. I've seen him at Ludlow the last 2 times he's run and won. He's beaten horses that have gone on to win, especially last time out. And he's a lovely, big, fine son of Galloway. And I think he will turn up at a big, big price indeed. Right, okay, we have got to the end of day one, but we need a napper next best of day one from each. So we'll start with Ross.
So the nap comes with a caveat because the market suggests he's not going to run here, but I'll address that on the daily podcast with TC if he doesn't. Ballyburn is the nap in the Supreme. I think he's a class apart. And next best is Embassy Gardens against TC's Corbett's Cross in the National Hunt Chase.
Oh, come on, TC. We know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, my nap's Lossy Mouth in the Mare's Hurdle. I couldn't find anything at a bigger price with as much confidence, so she has to be the nap despite the short odds. And the next best is Corbett's Cross in the National Hunt Chase. So one of us should be celebrating at least.
Yeah, this is going to make good content for whatever happens. And just to add a little spanner in the works, because I haven't said many of my tips, but my nap is Embassy Gardens.
Is it? Come on, 2v1.
I've always said what a shrewd judge you are, Jess.
It hasn't been a great run of form recently on the pod for me, but let's see if that changes. And my next best is Slade Steele in the Supreme. I do like that horse. I think that if he ends up in the race in the Supreme, that he's got a cracking chance, because I think it's going to be very open when Ballyburn is declared, essentially, for the Gallaghers. Right, we're end of day one, and we're going to give you an update on the offer. We have a double winnings offer. SBK are offering all customers a double winnings boost to use each day of the Cheltenham Festival. That means you can choose any horse in each race each day, and you'll get paid out double the odds if they win. Max stakes do apply along with all the standard terms and conditions. So with that in mind, if you're Corbett's Cross, MC Gardens, or you're Lossy Mouth like we all are, but we've got plenty more to get through. So we'll head straight into Wednesday. And sort of the same again, a bit of deja vu feeling. And I think we all feel that this is where Ballyburn's going to end up, which was the Baring Bingham, formerly the Ballymore, now the Gallaghers. Don't ask us why. It doesn't really matter. It's a 2.5 mile novice hurdle. This is where we expect to see Ballyburn. Should better suit him. But one horse I know both of you guys like is Gidley Park. I think he might end up in the Albert Bartlett. Mm-hmm. Do you think that we agree on that? Do you think that he should be in the Albert Bartlett? So we disagree, Ross? Fine.
I think it will be the worst training decision of the festival if they run that horse in the Albert Bartlett. He wouldn't have a chance. He was keen on trials day. I think TC would agree with that. Okay, had to make his own run in that, perhaps didn't help. They're going to go not a crawl, but they won't go quick in the Albert Bartlett. I could see him pulling his head off, compromising his jumping. He's a big shell of a horse. I'm sure he's a 3-mile chaser in time. Yeah. But I think this would bottom him, and I would oppose him hugely in that. I have a little bit of reservation about whether he's man enough for this, but I would fancy him a bit more in this. if Ballyburn wasn't here than I would in the Albert Bartlett.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't fancy him at all.
That's the point, though, isn't it? Every trainer's trying to dodge Ballyburn.
But
And
surely you do the best thing by your horse. It's the same thing with Slade
Surely.
Still here. I don't see how Slade Still stays this trip. I get you don't want to take on Ballyburn, but if you run here, you could run £10 below your form and still not, and then not win a Cheltenham race. And surely you've got to just run the way that you've got best chance. And you say don't be afraid of one horse. I kind of get why you would be afraid of Ballyburn, but I think this is madness to run Slade Steele here.
Yes, to my point that he should be in the Supreme. Thanks, confidence behind that. But so who's going to line up against Ballyburn? Is there anything to beat Ballyburn in here, TC?
I think just Il Atlantique. That's the only horse in here, looking at the entries or right now, that would even interest me in any kind of manner, really. Ballyburn, I expect to win. You know, what he's done so far is just way superior to any other horse in the race. But Il Atlantique is at least a fair each way bet for those people who like that kind of thing. 5-1. I mean, it's not what I would do, but 5-1 in a race, fifth of the odds, first three. I mean, he's almost guaranteed to be in the first three, I think. You know, his performances so far this season have been pretty promising. Yes, he's Willie Mullins' second string if Ballyburn runs here, but I think he's capable of... Okay, for example, take Ballyburn out and do a usual running of the... whatever we're going to call it, the Ballymore. I think Il Atlantique's got a fantastic chance. Over the last 10 years, he would be there or thereabouts in virtually every single renewal. It's just that Ballyburn looks way superior to every other novice that we've seen in this kind of division for a long time. So, look, I'll probably have a few quid on Il Atlantique and maybe look in the without favourite market if Ballyburn is in this race, but who knows?
Yeah, look, before the Lullers of Nace, Il Atlantique was their sort of star in the novice hurdle division. He obviously gets beat and then he becomes not as good as everything else. Do you think that we could sort of forgive him for that? Could he try and put it up to Ballyburn?
Absolutely. And I don't like this. Oh, he's soft. He got absolutely chinned, and he had to make his own running because Chapeau de Soil of Patrick Mullins walked through the first two hurdles. He was clearly going to go and make it. Had to make his own running, jumped nicely, cranked it up, and they all came and had a go at him up the home straight, and he saw them all off, and then Darryl Jacob came and chinned him on the line. I don't think he had a chance to fight back, but he kept on going. I think in a stronger pace, so perhaps we had to get a bit more cover, and I think he'll deliver him late. He's got really good form. He beat Ferranilli in a bumper, narrowly beaten by Firefox, who's a smart horse. I don't see him as being soft at all. The one thing I would say is if Paul Townend comes here with Ballyburn, I read that as Paul Townend saying that Tully Hill is better than I've caught it off you now.
Yes, you're the Frenchman.
So that would slightly worry me, and it would probably be a race that I'd sit out. Handstands for Ben Pauling is a really nice horse. He won the Sydney Banks last time in good style under Harry Cobden, who I think is going to keep the ride. He's a smart horse, but again, a little bit like Gidley Park, he's a big frame of a horse. He only won his point-to-point in October. I just worry that he's done quite a lot already, and this might just be a step too far. But if Ballyburn comes here, that would probably mean I'd leave Il Atlantique alone, and I would perhaps then have a little bit of something on handstands just to have a vested interest in the race.
Yeah, well, thank God, really, for Ben Pauling, I don't think we would say that, for having a horse to run in this race against the Willie Mullins team, because I think everything else is going to try and avoid him. But Ballyburn is an obvious one, but I suppose... Am I right to say Il Atlantique if Ballyburn doesn't run in this race?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Okay.
Well, can I just mention one other horse? I know he's probably not going to run. I did read a Willie Mullins stable tour just to check who was going where, because we've got no idea otherwise. Billericay Dickey, probably not going to run at Cheltenham at all. I think he said that he's going to keep him home, but I think he's a very good horse. Definitely one for the tracker. What camera am I at? This one. Definitely one for the tracker moving forward, because he was so impressive on Irish debut. Yeah,
I completely agree with you. I really like that horse. By Newby, he's got a very unusual profile for a race like this. He was a former flat horse, and flat horses don't do well in this type of race, but I was very taken by him as well. He's definitely a horse to follow, Billericay Dickey, wherever he goes, but he just has only had such a small amount of experience.
Are we thinking that Reading Toby Wrong goes to Albert Bartlett then?
Yeah,
definitely. Him. Yeah, that was my sort of take on it. He would have to be of interest if he does come here, though. You know, because I think he got the run of the race against Il Atlantique, but they would still be close enough, and he might be a bit of a price, because I think people thought that it wasn't a very fashionable horse winning it, because he'd done his winning sort of through the late summer.
Yeah, he was 16-1 for a reason, maybe. But look, we he could end up here.
But these are young horses; they can improve, and I think people sometimes miss that the form they show on their first and second run is as good as they are over hurdles, and they can improve.
Not to dwell on the point, but isn't it crazy that every horse apart from Handstone we talked about is Willie Mullins? Literally every horse in this division.
Yeah, other than Slade Steele, I suppose, just about it. But Gordon's really lacking on horses in this level. Firefox, one that we just obviously haven't discarded.
I think
really.
He's going to go to Supreme, isn't he?
He's going to the Supreme and maybe won a false race.
But Ballyburn was miles below what he can be.
Yeah, in a false race from what I've read repeatedly. Okay, we'll move on. So Ballyburn, Il Atlantique as a saver, depending on what happens with Ballyburn. Right. We'll go on to the Brown advisory, because I think if there's one takeaway over the last couple of weeks, there is an absolute good thing from a JP McManus perspective, a Willie Matlin's perspective, and he was Tom Collins's novice chaser to follow this season, so it's not like we hadn't already known. But Factifile hadn't.
And he'd only run. Let's give TC a bit of credit. He'd only run in a bumper last year, and so that's a shout.
I think, absolutely. At the time, we thought it was unusual campaigning, but we've got to be reminded that the Great Florida Pearl was given this exact type of route from bumper to novice chasing. So you have to get confidence. He only does it with special horses, but you must feel like, thanks to every Mullins member for listening to me and agreeing with me, because that's what they're doing recently. And it's hard to stay away from the confidence that's around Factifile being very much already a Gold Cup horse. And if he ran in the Gold Cup now, I think Tony Mullins said he would be a big contender.
Yeah, he wins this race.
Yeah, I love it.
Don't you know anymore? He wins. He's my banker of the week. I'm going early with it, but he is. Everything he's done this season's been superb. He's open to so much improvement. It's not the best of races. I think he wins easily.
Okay, is it that simple, Ross? You've heard it, you've listened to it, but you've also watched what he's done, and I think that's important not to take away from.
Yeah, I mean, he coped with the undulations of Cheltenham last year in a bumper. I'm fully with TC. We're back agreeing again. I think this is the winner. I would just caveat that he has got to go and jump downhill more than he's had to so far in his career, but he looks balanced. He looks an easy ride. I just couldn't believe he was able to match. Like Gaelic Warrior, I don't think gave his run in the Dublin Racing Festival. I think he hurt himself when he made that mistake at the fourth last or whatever it was, because he just went from travelling to not travelling. But the fact that Factifile was able to travel with him down the back was just incredible, and do it so easily. I saw a clip there. I've not watched any preview pods because there is only one preview pod, as we know, and I've not watched any. But I did see a clip that they were asking Paul Townend about talking during a race, and he said, "No, I don't." And they said, "Well, surely you had a chat when there's just two of you." And he said, "We were going so quick. All I could think about was how fast are we going on these two horses." That tells you something, because he's ridden some quite quick horses, I think, down the back at Leopardstown. Loads of pace. He'll stay. Yeah.
Yes, that was my one element.
If the ground went if it rained and it went really soft, I would rein back a little bit, and I would have a little bit on Monty Starr, who's a half brother to Monolith. Lacks the class of Factifile, but he'll gallop and he'll jump and he'll stay all day, and he likes soft ground. Stairway Fair can't have. He'll get outpaced. He jumps too slow. He'd be a horse, a bit like a Hoisinor. He might be more interesting actually in a Gold Cup next year on the new course over further. Broadway Boy, we should say well done to Tristan Davies for saying this is where we're running, so at least it gives punters a little bit of a clue. He's solid. Wouldn't overlook him. The horse I cannot have, and I will not have in the Turners either, is Grey Dawning. He jumps so violently to his left. He might end up in the enclosure, but it'll be the best mate enclosure in the middle of the course, not the winner's enclosure. I just cannot see, A, how they fix it, and B, how he's going to be able to do that and win a race of this. So it's Factifile, provided he just copes with a slightly different jumping test, but everything I've seen so far suggests that he should.
So do you think, in terms of tactics, Paul Townend keeps it simple, just goes out in front, does a bit like Monkfish all those years ago?
Gets a lead off Broadway Boy, I'd think.
Maybe, yeah. Why would you hold this horse up? You've got to go forward. Maybe you don't push him right to the front.
It'd be Mark Walsh as well, not Paul.
Yeah,
Mark Walsh, that's true.
Yeah, you got to keep it simple, because the worst thing. I mean, I'm not a jockey, and I know if any jockey's watching this, they're saying, "Oh, why are you being an armchair rider?"
No, you can. But watch plenty racing. Yeah.
Exactly, you've got to ride a horse to give him the best possible chance, and the best possible chance for Factifile to win is to be prominent without a horse in front of him.
Yeah, I suppose, which we've seen in the past, the likes of Gallopin Deschamps, that final fence agony, it's only him and his own sort of lack of experience that maybe...
We're all big enough people that if he gets beat from going out in front and not getting home, or he makes a mistake like Gallopin Deschamps comes down, you take your medicine, you dust yourself down, you go again. It's harder to take if they get brought down or get trapped on a rail in what's going to be a small... That's my pet hate when a jockey can find trouble in a 6-runner race. Like, to me, that isn't great. So yeah, I think you'd be positive on him, and I don't see why he wouldn't be.
Yeah, okay. So fact to file, this is could be a horse that next year you'd be fascinated to see him if he's as good as they say he could be, up against the likes of Gallopin Deschamps and what will be a very good Gold Cup sort of field this time next year, we hope. And the Gold Cup is probably one of the better races of the week, and we will get to that when we get to Friday. But midway through Wednesday, we've got fact to file, and we've got a bit of agreement, and I wonder if that will stay the same as we head towards the Champion Chase, which I say with a bit of trepidation. Again, not a race that I've got that excited about over the last few years. Ross is shaking his head, TC's shaking his head as well, but I feel like TC have always been a long-time fan of El Fabiolo. Would that be right, over John Bomb?
I mean, both of them really, but yeah, I'd say so. This is kind of a match, isn't it? I respect John Bon as much as any other pundit. For sure, he's a great horse, but El Fabiolo is a better horse. That's frankly what we've seen so far. So, look, the market tells you that. There's no value in this race whatsoever. I definitely won't be betting in it, but El Fabiolo 6 from 6 over fences, smashed John Bon in the Arkle last year. It looked as good as ever when he beat Dino Blue, who's probably going to win at Cheltenham Festival this year as well.
Yeah.
There's very few negatives apart from the price.
Okay. El Fabiolo then.
I know it's boring, but yes.
Well, and Ross, I'm not going to try and explain the emoji that you sent to this WhatsApp group to describe this race, but why has the Champion Chase become such a sickener?
Well, I really hoped, and I put him up as my 2-mile chase to follow at the start of the season, that John Bon and his jumping, and Nico de Boinville, who I think I like Aim Common, and I hope we see him back. He's still plugging away at this injury. But I didn't think he was great on John Bon a couple of times last year in terms of being positive to offence. Nico de Boinville came out this year, Schlur Chase, Tingle Creek, just rode him like he didn't care and dared him down to everything, and he was brilliant. And I took the view after the Schlur that maybe if ridden like that, he could pull a few more mistakes out of Al Fabiolo. But he then went to Trials Day with James Bowen on. James Bowen's a really fine jockey. But I think it showed why Nico de Boinville is still number 1 at 7 Barrows, not James Bowen, despite the fact that a lot of social media think Nico de Boinville isn't strong enough to finish and James Bowen is mustard. Didn't give him a great ride, a little bit negative. Maybe had in his mind he wanted to give him a hard race and ended up giving him a brutally hard race. He walked through the fence at the top of the hill, did really well to get back in front, and then got run down again by essentially a good handicapper. I was watching it by about the last fence and watching up the hill. I didn't like how John Bon looked to be pushing. And when you look at the mistake he made, his hind legs went out behind him, just stretched all those muscles over the top of his back down into his legs. Nicky Henderson put a video up saying he was sound the next day. I was amazed that he was. I would have put good money on the fact that he'd have been very sore. Straight away, I had him as a write-off. I didn't think he'd make the Cheltenham Festival. I watched a video of him schooling the other day.
Yeah.
And it was great. I mean, the channel it was on had their cameras there and said, John Bon schooling magnificently this morning. Well, if that's schooling magnificently, I don't know what I saw, because he absolutely walked through the second fence. I mean, he didn't know what he was doing. And it triggered a memory. I went back and found a video that Dave Cross had taken when he was down at Nicky Henson's watching one of his Noel Feely syndicate horses and just happened to be there, and John Bon was schooling for the first time. John Bon was absolutely mustard. And I can remember thinking, wow, he was so good with his feet, so short and so straight and so slick. And I then watched the horse that's got all that chasing experience. His jumping has regressed.
Okay.
And so I don't see how he does serve it up to Al Fabiolo. If you fancy John Bon, you are all in on Nico de Boinville.
Getting the best out of him.
But I just worry that, and what I saw in his jumping, and I have to be really careful now because Nicky Henderson knows way, way, way more about horses than I'll ever know. But to me, it looked like he was slightly nervous of just sitting down into his hind leg when he had to shorten up. To go in tight, it's almost like us doing a squat.
Yeah.
And if you're a bit sore, you don't really want to squat and sit. And that's what I saw. And I have to go with my gut and how I look at things. And I just don't see that he's going to jump well enough to get Al Fabiolo in trouble. And we know that Al Fabiolo is the better horse if he jumps well enough, and he will. Edward Stone is the lurker, isn't he?
But will he get his own way out in front?
Will they try? He was so much better being ridden aggressively in the game spirit against inferior opposition. And then straight after, they said to Alan King, you'd ride him like this in the Champion Chase. Oh, I don't know whether we would. And you think, why wouldn't you? You've been shown twice this season in the Tingle Creek and the Schlur, you can't beat John Bon if you ride him from behind. So you're not going to beat Al Fabiolo. The only chance you've got is to try and get an easy lead. And I just don't understand how the owners, if they came fourth by trying to make the running and end up getting too tired and walking home up the hill, wouldn't at least sit in the bar afterwards and say, well, at least we had a go. Because if you don't, you're going to finish third in the Champion Chase. He's already won a load of grade ones. Why wouldn't you at least try something different that looked like it worked last time, albeit against inferior opposition? I hope they make it. I think they're going to hold him up. Okay. And he'll have no chance.
Yeah, my better half, who worked for Alan King for a long time as pupil assistant, said that he's worried that Alan would think that he's setting the race up for them. And he's done it before when a horse called Smad Place went out and made all at the Hennessy. And the next time out, they said, we're not setting it up for them in a better style of race. And it's really unlike Alan King, isn't it? He likes to have his horses sort of mid-division, see how they get on.
The rail.
Yeah, so it's interesting. And I think that will change the complexion of it. But when you've got horses in here, like Alexia de Nertz, Editor de Geet, they happy to go along anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and Edward Stone, if he goes in front, has potentially got the chance to draw the mistake out of Al Fabiolo that I was looking for John Bon to do. There's got to be some pressure applied somewhere, otherwise Paul Town's just going to cant around, survive a couple of sketchy jumps, and kick away up the hill and win easily.
Yeah,
which would be great to watch. He's a great horse, but he's not a price.
Yeah, he's the straightforward one. He's the sort of the safe option really in a race where it doesn't overly whet our appetite. So El Fabiolo.
Can I give you a trend?
Yeah, we've missed your trend.
It's been a while.
Trend,
This isn't supposed to contradict what I said about El Fabiolo, or what anyone of us has said actually about El Fabiolo likely to win this race. But it's just interesting. This race has been terrible for odds-on favourites over the last 10 years. I mean, you have had Altior win it at 4-11 in 2019.
Different type of horse,
though. And Nurkamine won it at 6-5, obviously not odds-on, but close to last year. But you had Duvan beaten, Defi de Soy beaten, Chacun Pour Soi beaten, Shishkin beaten, all odds-on. Sprinter Sacra beaten in this race, not odds-on, but still. So favourites haven't got a good record here. I mean, it's largely irrelevant to this year, different group of horses, everything, but just interesting. Yeah, it is.
For what it's worth, I do respect what Nikki said about having John Bon spot on for the week before when the race was meant to be at Ascot. And whatever he does, Nikki, he gets his horses right for the right day. And I don't really, I'm not trained, I never have been, but how a horse can sort of just falter or maybe fall apart like he did the week later.
I have no issue with how he ran at all. I just have an issue with what I think it's unfortunately done to him going forward into the back of this season.
Okay, really interesting insight from all those departments there, but not really a betting race. I think we can all agree. The handicaps on another occasion are on Wednesday. We've got the Coral Cup, the Cross Country, the Grand Annual, and the Champion Bumper to give us something to get excited about. TC, you said the first day, not really a handicap day for you, is day 2?
Coral Cup will be, but I won't have a bet in it just yet. So I have no selection at the moment. Check out my column on the day or the day before for that. Cross country, I'm never interested in, to be honest. It's a good spectacle.
It's not become a great race.
It's not.
I think we can
Make
agree.
it a handicap.
Yes, it's a frustrating race. I'm happy to leave that one. I've got 2 in the bumper though.
Love it.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to run there necessarily because obviously we haven't got the full fields right now, and all the Irish trainers have about 1 million in there. But 2 that interest me: Romeo Coolio being 1. He's around 8-1 currently. Obviously a big talking horse prior to his Irish debut. He was very impressive that day. I think he's probably under bet right now because he wasn't as visually impressive as many people thought he was going to be due to the hype prior to the race. But he had to make his own running. For an inexperienced sort, it's not ideal. And he's still quick and clear and won cozily. I think he is open to as much improvement as any horse in the race. So if he goes there, Romeo Coolio for me would be my number 1. But the horse at a bigger price, the better value bet, again, reliant on him going to the race because I don't know. One of Willie Mullins's, Say to Chance. Now, he's 16-1, which suggests he's not going to be the number 1 string, not going to be the number 2 string, not going to be number 3 string if he does go. But He's got a very similar profile to Romeo Coolio. Only had the one start, slowly run event that day. He came up just short, but the winner subsequently scored by 5 lengths, and it's really good. So giving the form a big boost. He definitely looks like the type that will relish the hill. And we've seen in previous years, Willie can have a number 1 string, but that number 1 string is not guaranteed to be the best horse in the race. It pays to look at the bigger prices. And I think Satyr Chance is a good value play at 16s. When I read that Willie Mullins stable tour, actually, we're going to do another piece later called Punting Advice, and this is very contradictory to my punting advice, but I did read the Willie Mullins stable tour, and he said he's likely to come across. So that gives me some kind of positive that he should be in the race.
Okay, got a little bit of certainty from Willie Mullins. There's the day. Yeah, the Willie Mullins winners of this race, the last 4, Fast Vegas, Cigar Head, Fernie Hollow, and Relegate, all ridden by a different jockey, Patrick, Rachel, Paul, and Katie Walsh. So, and Patrick has said that, you know, he waits until the final schooling day, of, you know, or the final piece of work day, I shouldn't say schooling day, for the bump horses to work out which ones he's going to ride and give him a really good feel. And he was actually saying that last year it was between It's For Me. No, it wasn't It's For Me, that's the filly. It's between one, Fun,
Fact to
File and Fun.
Yeah.
And Fact to File had given him such a good feel, and that's why he got on him.
Fun was too keen.
That's it, rank keen. So it will be interesting what Patrick chooses, but I don't think they have a standout.
No. And when Fernie Hollow won it, was that not the year Appreciator was favourite and Fernie Hollow beat him? So that sort of ties into TC saying there's not a standout. And they haven't got a standout this year, have they? And I don't think Ireland have. Normally it's the bumper, right, which is the best of the Irish, they'll win.
Yeah. Normally one's won at the Dublin Racing Festival is a real good thing, Yeah. Okay, Romeo Coolio and Satyr Chance. I'm just going to add one in, which has another curveball. Argento Boy, I'm sure you probably had a look at him. You know, he's still probably got the same sort of reasons, all of that. He canted through the SBK bumper, so it'll be a good day for the parish. Argento Boy won that at Ferry House earlier this year. What I really liked about him is that he responded to pressure by Jodie Townend, enjoyed racing. You know, he really enjoyed getting asked to get down and dirty, which you need to do in a champion bumper. He's also beautifully bred. He's a half brother to Briar Hill, who won this race in 2013 by Jukebox Jury, the new stallion for Victor Connolly at Burgage Stud. So I'm hoping that he could turn into a better horse as he gets older, as his siblings have done. So that's my Argento Boy in that race. Ross, you're looking at me. You've got something to tell me.
Same Satyr Chance in the bumper. It was the horse called William Money of Barry Connell's that beat him and has since won since. And Barry Connell, who's not shy of having an opinion, said he's the best bumper horse in Ireland. That would suggest Satyr Chance is better than people think. In the bumper as well, I also like Brecon Castle for the Brookhouse team. He just struggled to give a little bit of weight to a very smart mare Dan Scout's called Let It Rain. He's already won at Cheltenham. The UK horses will probably be a little bit overpriced because people tend to gravitate towards the Irish. I don't think there's a big disparity this year, so I certainly want him on side. In the handicaps, I put up Ballyadam anti-post at 25-1 for the Coral Cup. He's run twice in the county and finished 5th, I think, both times. Last time off a mark of 144 and got no luck whatsoever. Just got stopped everywhere he went and stayed really well. He stayed well over 3 miles at Christmas at Leopardstown. I think he's off 147, I think, so he's up a few pound, but I think he's got an outstanding chance in the Coral Cup, and he'll go there. Although I did just read, or didn't actually read it, I just looked at the horses that were mentioned, and he wasn't mentioned on Kevin Blake's Henry de Bromhead stable tour. I'm hoping it's just an editorial missed off because I've not seen anything that says he's not going, and I heard a pretty confident word from him earlier this month.
I've read that because I like him. I've read that they are keen on him, but I think he's just probably one of the bigger prices out of all of them.
Doddy the Great, Encanto Bruno, be really interesting if they got in here, but I think they might go to the Martin Pipes. We'll pick them up later, but they're interesting horses. The cross country, I won't have a bet, and I'm not particularly interested in it, other than I put up Minella Indo at 50s for the Grand National, and I'd be really excited if he could win this and then do a Tiger Roll into the Grand National. The Grand Annual, haven't had a proper look at it yet, but if the ground came up soft, Hardy de Soy for the Snowdens. I would like to see his horse up in trip, but then I can see the appeal of a fast run race. If soft ground, he does tend to be ridden a little bit far back maybe for the Grand Annual on this track, but he'll finish really well. He's got a nice mark and he's got a race in him, and then the 2 bumper horses.
So Romeo Coolio, Satyr Chance for TC. We've got again Satyr Chance and Brecon Castle. We've got Ballyadam, who I backed that up. Very interesting. They campaigned him over fences, which wasn't a natural up, but maybe they're trying to save some mark. They've been quite clever.
Yeah.
And then remind me of a couple of the others. Top of my head, in the Coral.
In the Coral, Dolly the Great and
Dolly
Encanto
the Great.
Bruno, but I think there'll be more Martin Pipe horses and Hardy to Soy in the Grand Annual.
Okay, and just a reminder, daily podcasts this week, next week. So I'd imagine, especially as the handicap's confirmed, we'll get more insight into your selections for those races.
We're going to be
think
talking
we're
about
every race, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I think it's important this year because, as we've already discussed, the makeup of each race is quite hard to be doing a week out.
Yeah, and what's important for anyone that's going to watch that is they're going to be quick. They're going to be 15 minutes max. Quick, go through the race and our selections, that's it.
Okay, brilliant. And to that point, quick Napa next best for day 2 TC?
Yeah, my nap is going to be Factor File, of course, in the Brown Advisory. And my next best, just because of the value aspect, is Say to Chance in the bumper. Can I just quickly interject with one horse, like I did earlier, for the tracker going forward, not for Cheltenham Festival this year? Maybe an anti-post play just after the festival. I think the yellow clay will go very close in the Ballymore /Birmingham /Gallagher's next season, if not win it. I'm going to bet him probably as soon as the race is done and there's market up for next season, providing he doesn't run terribly in the bumper.
Okay, heard it here first.
The yellow clay.
Yeah. Right, Napa next best.
Factor File is the nap, and the next best, I'm going to go hard or go home because there's not an awful lot I like on the Wednesday. So Ballyadam is the next best.
Okay, Ballyadam. I love that. I'm with you with him as well. Okay, we've got to the end of day 2. We are rattling through this, and I hope that we found some good selections at this stage. I actually think when we get to Thursday, my opinion, I don't know about the others, is that this is a better betting day, as is Friday. I think I sort of enjoy it a little bit more. I think it's a little bit more open, and starting with the Turners on the Thursday is our first race of the day. It's probably fallen apart a little bit because, again, many horses will come to this. It's fallen apart is the fact that the quality isn't really there. Many horses are coming to this as opposed to others because they're trying to avoid the other horses. And this is the first novice of any kind that we've got UK representation at the top of the betting. Ginny's Destiny, didn't think I would say that at the beginning of the season. Top of the betting list, Grey Dawning as well. And then it's what will happen with Gaelic Warrior. Iroko is just the real, fascinating horse in here. It would be a real sort of miracle and extremely impressive training performance if he can come back after his injury that he's had this season. So, as I said, Willie Mullins all confirmed Factor File runs in the Brown Advisory. So, open to the English challengers. Do we like them, Ross, or are we happy to take them on?
I love Ginny's Destiny. I think he's brilliant, but I can't help thinking that he might just lack a little bit of class, but he's going to bounce out in front. He will jump from fence to fence, and whatever wins this, if he doesn't, will have to come and pass him. He's hugely underestimated. I've seen that Krabilly is all the rage for the plate, and people saying, if Ginny's Destiny is a 150 horse, Krabilly was going to beat him at Cheltenham, so he must be well handicapped. Well, A, he didn't beat him because he jumped badly as he can do and fell on the floor. And B, you're just completely ignoring the fact that Ginny's Destiny has come from Tom Lacey, who's a really solid trainer, into Paul Nicholls, who, with the greatest respect to Tom Lacey, is a better trainer and has a habit of just improving young chasers hand over fist through a season. He's done it time and time again. And this horse is a completely different kettle of fish now than he was when winning in November or December, whenever it was at Cheltenham. So I think he's solid. And it might be that we all look a bit daft if we don't go with him when he just makes all from the front and Harry Cobden does a Harry Cobden thing. But he's not perhaps the classiest angle. Grey Dawning, I've already said about him. I wouldn't like him if he came here. Gaelic Warrior, I can see the new course suiting better because there's less turning. And as I've already said, I think the jumping out to the right has been massively overplayed because lots of websites like to have clickbait titles. And then for some reason, the clickbait title tends to sort of seep into the opinions of people that actually know better. And they say he jumped wildly out to his right at Leopardstown. He didn't. He jumped right at the one in front of the stands because that's where the paddock is. Fine. Even going around the bend, away, he jumped straight. And he jumped right drastically once he was emptied. When he's empty, he does go right. When he's going forward, he's straight enough. So I can see the track suiting him. But it's a bit of a worry how he ran last time. Facile Vega, I think, is where I'm going to end up. I was kind of hard. I won't back him now. I'll back him if he turns up on the day and happily take a shorter price because Willie Mullins has said that he's not really been pleasing him pretty much all season. I would caveat that by saying people are pretty quick to get their sticks out when Nicky Henderson sort of says, "Oh, I'm not happy about this and that."
Willie can do no wrong, can he?
Yeah,
compared to Nicky.
at least he comes out and says, "This is the issue." We're only now hearing that Facile Vega's been a bit disappointing all season, and it's going to have to take every bit of work that Willie wants to throw at him, and I hope he can jolt him back to form. So I think we've got to judge everyone through the same lens and not distort it because one's in England and perhaps talks a bit smart for people. So Facile Vega, if he comes here, I think he's been crying out for this trip. He's a really solid jumper, but he's just not quick across the top of the fence, and he doesn't land running. That would perhaps suit him here. And his Corvega stayed 2 mile 4 and 3 miles. The record at 2 miles was 2 from 4, and the 2 she won weren't great contests. I think it's a bit of a blind spot and a really rare one for Willie Mullins, that he just sees this horse as his Corvega's son, all speed, the quickest thing he's ever had at home on the gallops. And they can be quick on the gallops and they can be slower on the track. Every trainer will tell you that. And for some reason, the great man hasn't picked up on that. So I think if he comes here, I'd like him. And if he comes here and he turns up at Cheltenham, we can assume that he's taken all those bits of work that Willie wanted to give him, and Willie is happy. Otherwise, I think he'll stay at home this year. Facile Vega would be the one. J-Lo stayed on behind Nickelback in a strange silly hours where James Best gave Nickelback a brilliant ride, nicked it going away from the stands, and they never got back to him. But J-Lo did stay on. He'd be interesting, but I think they might go Arkle. Rocco, I think we both had him for the Martin Pipe last year, didn't we? And he finished really well over that trip. We couldn't put him up in the preview pod because our preview pod was horses that hadn't won last year, and that was the one horse that really irked me because he would have been my novice chaser. Won really well at Warwick, jumped beautifully, has been away, had a foot injury, was going to miss the season, and then went to Martinstown and had some magic grass and is repaired and good to go again. And I say that without being facetious, by the way. Horses like us can recover quicker from things, and things aren't as serious as they think. But you're taking a bit of a chance. It's a weak enough race that it gives him a chance. In a normal Cheltenham Festival Novice Chase Grade 1, you just say, no, not off that prep. But against these, maybe. But I would feel real daft putting my money on him and him blowing out through lack of experience, and then thinking to myself, come on, you've been around horses, you know better than that. I'm not a numbers man. I like horses, and I know a bit about horses more than I know about numbers. So I should go with what my gut tells me. My gut tells me this is not a prep for a Grade 1 Cheltenham Novice Chase. So love him, but next year.
Okay, what a race he's actually won. Iroko beat Golden Sun, who won the other day. Kilbeg King, also already been talked about. Gestonic has gone out and won. I think what he's done is a shame, really.
Golden Sun bombed out twice after, though, didn't he? And they brought him back, and Kilbeg King needs every yard of 3 miles. So he was brilliant, but I wouldn't go mad on the form lines as such.
Okay, fine. Iroko, I'm trying to have confidence in him myself. I do think it will be an exceptional training performance. I don't think it's an overly competitive race. Grey Dawning's got all the Cheltenham. Ginny's Destiny's got all the Cheltenham form in the book, and Grey Dawning and Ginny's Destiny know each other very well. Is it a race that you sort of see them as against each other, or are you not really into it from a betting perspective, TC?
I couldn't care less about this race, to be honest.
Move on.
I backed Factor File in both the Brown and the Turners anti-post. So when it was going the Brown, obviously I had nothing for the Turners. Ile Francais would have been phenomenal if he was in the race. He's not in the race. So Ross summed it up perfectly by basically saying every horse has a huge worry. And that's kind of what I came down on. I have no interest in the race. I do prefer Ginny's Destiny to Grey Dawning, like Ross said, but apart from that, I mean, that's not enough for me to back Ginny's Destiny a favourite, so I'll just leave it.
Ginny's Destiny might drift on the day, though, mightn't he? Because he's Ginny's Destiny and he's not Irish trained, and
he's just not a sexy horse, is he? For whatever reason, even though he's got one
bay, he just goes about his business.
So we'll take from that Facile Vega with a little bit of trepidation. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. As a selection, more than a
not one of our better betting races.
To be fair, responsible gambling. Don't have to bet in all 28.
No.
So that's the way I'm going.
Is that really?
That's the way I'm going.
I struggle to take myself, but even when it gets to cross country, I'm like, need to get involved at some stage. The Ryanair Chase we'll get to next. This is the feature race. Questionable with the stairs on the Thursday, and there is a horse I really, really like in here, and I know the man to my right does as well. So I'm going to let you take the floor, TC, and then I might have some fighting words back. So let's go for it. What do you like here in the Ryanair?
Envoy Hélène. I really like Envoy Len, actually. I think he's one of the better bets of the week. Obviously, in my opinion, the most naturally talented horse in the race. I don't think there's too much doubt about that. I mean, you can say he might not be the best now, but he's definitely the horse with the most natural ability all through his career. He's proved that in bumpers, hurdles, hurdling, novice chasing, everything. Now, he did fall off a cliff a bit, didn't he? The last few years, he's kind of not been where everyone anticipated he would have been. However, he's still a 3-time Grade 1 winner. This is Envoy LM we're talking about, and he won this race last year. Everything suggests that he's well capable of going in again. He looks like Henry, apparently Henry de Bromhead's now French, but Henry de Bromhead, he's campaigned him so that he's going to come back to this race. It looks exactly like this has been the plan all year, and they haven't really had him 100% until the race. So I love that. He looked short fitness on his return, I thought, and then he ran very well when he was just beaten by Jerry Colomb. But he actually shaped the best of every horse in that race. It's just that Jerry had more staying power and natural talent, really, at this stage of his career. Now, he's been freshened up. Love that angle. Massive positive. And what's an interesting stat for me is that his form figures after breaks of 80 days or longer, and I made it key that it's 80 days because he did return from 79 days once and lost. But 80 days or longer, his form figures read 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 1-3. A phenomenal record off a break of around 3 months. So Envoy LM, I'm super keen on him in the right now.
Yeah, I really agree with you. And another stat that I think you'll like is the last 10 runnings of this race. They've all been won by French breds.
Nice.
And I do a lot of work on the French breds and breeding from when it comes to the Cheltenham Festival. And this is the standout. And add to that, Saint Descent as a broodmare sire had a phenomenal year last year. And I think anywhere you see Saint Descent is a good plus point. There are a couple of other French breds in here, but I think his form stands head and shoulders above the others. So you're going to have some real good case to make against Envoy Land to back up his Ryanair victory, back up his success rate at Cheltenham in general. What do you think, Ross?
Should we go stats?
Go on.
10-year-olds in Grade 1s at Cheltenham Festival. How do they go?
Probably not strong.
Not good record, is it? He's lovely and
the patronising tone.
No, he's a gorgeous.
That's what you say about someone you don't like. He's lovely.
I use TC race. He's aesthetically nice. Very pleasing, isn't he? He's gorgeous horse. But the form last year, I mean, he beat Shishkin, who I really like, but Shishkin ran no race at all. He ran like a lunatic, didn't he? He ran like a lunatic. He ran like a moody lunatic as well. And the fact that he still got to within 2.25 lengths of Envoy Allen, A, I think is a testament to Shishkin, but B, it makes you worry about the level of the form. And then perennial moody thing, Hitman was not all that far behind. French Dynamite was only 5.5 lengths behind. It doesn't look like a great piece of form. He's a 10-year-old. This is definitely deeper. Is it? You think this is deeper, this renewal? Yeah, because I think he got the run of the race last time in a race where not an awful lot happened. I think the most important horse in the race this year, and I can't believe I'm saying it, is Protectorat, because I think he just blows this thing into such a mad contest that it's going to make it very difficult to ride. Because Protectorat running, as far as I'm concerned, straight away gives Stage Star no chance because he hates being taken on up front. He sulks, and I think he'll fold like a deck chair, as the phrase goes. For all that he's great around the track, he was really good in the Turners last year, impressive in the Paddy Power. But okay, the ground wasn't great last time, but he didn't jump well when he had it was a horse of Venetia Williams, wasn't it? Sort of Ferrero Bamboo, eyeballing him from a long way out. Didn't like it. That's going to happen here. I think Protectorat will be in front of him. Protectorat tends to dive at fences. I can see Stage Star not enjoying that at all. I do see the angle on Envoy LM, but he's a 10-year-old, and I just do think this is deeper. If the ground is good, Banbridge, I think, takes all the beating here. Beat Picdory in the Silvagnaco Conti last time, despite being a bit rusty in his jumping in the early stages. I think TC and I both went against him, having liked him the previous year because we didn't think the track would suit. This track definitely suits. Previous winner of the Martin Pipe. He'll stay well, but he is ground dependent.
It's not likely to be good, though, is it?
It has to be good.
Might be
good to soft.
Good
Will
to
he
soft,
run?
It'll be all right.
It'll be all right, but it'll definitely decrease it. I mean, if it's good, it'll be a very short price.
I just don't think it's going to be good on the first day.
But was it good when he won the Martin Pipe? Was it not good to soft that day?
It might have been good to soft, but that was obviously a handicap.
And the ground is going to be really interesting, and I think that's why the daily pods are going to be potentially very different to what we're saying here. But I did sort of float the view that because it's so wet, they cannot water.
Yeah.
And if the sun comes out, the sun comes out, is at the moment, and there's a bit of a breeze, Cheltenham does dry really quickly. And he might not be able to water because the water table is so high, and actually you end up with a slightly quicker surface for all that it's been really soft, if that makes sense. So it's definitely a race that I will have a much firmer opinion on Wednesday night, and an even more firm opinion on Thursday morning. I do like him. I tipped up Fugitive at 33-1. I love the horse. He's done me really well.
Yeah.
But he ran a massive race in the Clarence House. Got outpaced down the back, and then flew home up the hill. And Gavin Sheehan came in and said another furlong and a bit, and he'd have won. Unfortunately, it didn't get shown because the TV angle didn't show him. I was on the track and stood with Carl Hinchy, so I was watching it very carefully.
So that would have been fun. Yeah.
They were really happy with that run, and it was a run designed to. And I've really enjoyed being, my horse with Richard Hobson, so I do get a few tidbits that they really thought what wanted to do. They could have gone to the Fleur de Lis, they could have gone to the Dublin Racing Festival, they could have run in the Handicap. And as soon as the Clarence House moved to Cheltenham, Richard straight away was, we could run him over 2 miles, sharpen him up. Yeah. So when he goes in the Ryanair in a Grade 1, the pace is not going to shock him quite so much. Nothing will come home stronger up the hill. He would need soft ground, so that's quite a nice position for me because it's Banbridge if it's quick. If it's quick ground, I think Fuji might be a little bit tapped for a gear maybe at an important part of the race. Cheap pieces are going back on. Carl came on the Tuesday podcast today and said that they will definitely go back on to sharpen him up. They don't want to be too far back. Gavin Sheehan has been claimed for Garlaw, who's been supplemented, but they've booked Sean Bowen, who rode him last year in the plate when he finished second. And they think, and Sean was very much of the opinion, that the standing start cost him the race. He said he's a big horse. He's nearly 18 hands. He said he was very slow to go from a standing start, was much further back than he wanted to be. He's still a decent price. I think he's into about 16s now, but that's still a nice each way price. So I do like him. Don't like Stage Star because of Protectorat. Don't like Protectorat because it's Protectorat. And I'm not as dismissive as you think on Envoy LN. He's a classy horse, but he's a 10-year-old.
A weak enough argument.
It was a weak enough. I think this is deeper. For all there's not a standout. I think there's just a few that could come and challenge.
Can I just interject very quickly back on Banbridge? I know we're jumping around a little bit here, but I completely agree with what Ross said. We've been fans of him for a long time, haven't we? And the thing there's 3 things that I don't like about him in this race. 1, the price. I think Envoy LN should be favourite. 2, the ground potentially. Again, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near good. It might be good to soft, but even then, I still think his chance is diminished. And 3, the case that Ross made about anti-Stage Start because of Protector, I think that makes Banbridge's chance diminish again because his best form is when he's out in front. And actually, when he beat Pic D'Orhy, he didn't run great. I mean, he was smashing fences. He was just way the best horse in the race. I don't know if you can make those mistakes consistently.
Definitely not.
And win at Cheltenham. Yeah. So that's another angle.
That's a really fair point. It didn't always look really plain for sailing at all. Okay, interesting. So Envoy Land for myself and TC, Banbridge for Ross with Fugitive. And you know what, I really hope, and Richard Hobson said at the beginning of the season that this is a bigger and better horse. He's always need to fill in his frame. Every time he's run in Grade 1s over this intermediate trip in the past, he's just fallen short. Let's hope that he's just getting to the potential that
I liked how he was much straighter at the finish when he won the December Gold Cup, because the cup time he sort of lugged to his left, hasn't he, up the hill, but he was really good and strong when running them down in the December Gold Cup.
Yeah.
They think there'll be a 3-mile horse next year, so he's the more of a stamina test, the better for him. Yeah,
okay, fine. We're going to move on to the stayers, because this is again an open enough, a bit like the Ryanair. And look, we give the stayers a lot of slack, and over the years it probably does deserve it. But at least when you think of all the other championship races, Champion Hurdle, Champion Chase, that there's a little bit of depth to it at least, and it's got some fun from a betting perspective. You know, we might not have brilliant standout racehorses, but we've got a horse race, TC.
Yeah, I've been probably the most critical on this podcast alone of this division. Like, I've hated it over the last few years. But what I will say, this year we've got some different horses. Yeah, we've got Crambo, we've got Noble Yates,
different trainers.
Yeah, exactly. We've got T Hoopu coming into the race again with a relatively similar prep. Last year I thought he was probably the best horse in the race, T Hoopu, in hindsight, and he deserves to be favourite, but he's short enough at 5-2. So this is a nice each-way looking kind of race. And I mean, I love Crambo. I put him up last time. I love Noble Yates. I put him up last time in their different races, and they both went in. But I'm going to desert them both here, despite the fact I think they'll run well. And this is largely to toot the horn of the Anti-Post podcast and myself. Apologies. But I'm going to stick with Home by the Lead because he's the only horse that hasn't won from the horses that I put up in the Anti-Post. And he's around 20-1. And I think this is kind of why I put him up in the division, because he's the one horse I think is going to be aimed towards the stayers. And I know he was going to guarantee to be here. And that's proven to be right. He's definitely overpriced by 4 points maybe. Look, he's not been as good as I hoped he would be this season. He has a lot of holes in his form. But last year, I thought he ran very respectably. He made a bad mistake first time around, passing the stands, and that probably ruined his chance. Finished 5th, would have hit the frame, I imagine, if he jumped it well. So hopefully at 20-1, he can hit the frame and be a good each-way play. But other than that, I just got to look forward to this race, actually.
Yeah, okay. A lot of faith in Home by the Lead, because I feel like, has he let you down a little bit?
This season, he's not been good. But to be fair, this has been the aim. Like I've always thought this year, I'm not really going to back him that much going into the race. So before the race, sorry. This race now, 20-1, I think that's a good round price. If he won one of his last 2 starts, he would be way shorter.
Yeah, he had a really good season last year. He didn't run badly, did he? 5th to side of Burley. He reappears, who we know, he gets himself in such a great frame of mind in this time of the year. Paisley Park, probably if he ends with a win, that will be it for him, and that might be one of the stories of the festival.
For me.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I think everyone would like a bit of that. But even things like Monkfish, if he was able to turn up there, that would be pretty exceptional. So Gerhard's been a long-term friend of this podcast, and what he could do potentially in there
friend
as well.
Is in the loosest term. Annoyance.
But yeah, that's why I just sort of I kept that a little bit more of a warmth to it this year, Ross. And I think TC summed it up well. You can have a little bit more fun with it.
Yeah, I think it's a more exciting race than the Champion Hurdle and the Champion Chase.
Yeah.
Sort of race dynamic, isn't it? You've got potential improver in Crambo. You've got what was once thought of as a Gold Cup horse in Monkfish. You've got a Grand National winner.
Yeah, exactly.
Paisley Park, the old boy coming back again. It's got something for everyone. Whichever way you look at it. And Emma Lavelle, yeah. Tihopu didn't win it last year. I think in hindsight, perhaps Gordon Elliott, if you could get him to admit it, would admit he wished he'd put more faith in his young boys, Sam Ewing and Jordan Gainford, because I think Davy Russell wasn't the Davy Russell we'd become accustomed to, having retired and sort of come back out to help because Jack Kennedy was injured. And I think that was probably the winning and losing of this. But he had his perfect conditions other than that. And Davy Russell, 3 or 4 pounds off it, is still a very, very capable rider. Beat Lete Tomp in the Hatton's Grace this year, but time has shown that maybe that horse is just not quite right this year for whatever reason. Always overrated. In Peripass, sorry. Always overrated last year. That's entirely possible as well. For me, if Gordon Elliott's going to win this, it's with Irish Point, but it looks like they're going to go to the Champion Hurdle. I hope he stops and takes stock and looks at it and tries to find out on what possible grounds he thinks he's going to be state man over 2 miles.
It's more the owners, really. Do they want to
splitting out 2 horses? Yeah. But again, it comes back to surely you just run your horse in the race. It's got best chance. It's not like Tihupu's 4-9 on or something, and then I don't understand.
I must be very confident in him.
Maybe.
£95,000 for second in the Champion Hurdle, and then 68,000 for second in the Stayers. So if they think Tihupu's as good a thing as State Man, I presume that's what they're thinking. But he's not. He's not.
I was really, as you know, it takes a bit for me to put up a Gordon Elliott horse for personal reasons, but I did think he was a really standout candidate for this. So I'm sad to see him not run. Crambo, love what he's done. Fergal O'Brien's yet to have a Cheltenham Festival winner. And
Paddy Brennan.
Paddy Brennan on him.
Yeah.
No, Paddy Brennan won't be on him. Johnny Burke will be on him because it was Conor Brace's ride and he lost the ride, I thought, slightly unfairly for the Haydock run where he was beaten. Johnny Burke was good on him last time, but he beat Paisley Park half a length. Is that good enough? And if you like Crambo at a short enough price, why not like Paisley Park at a bigger price? Noble Yates won the Cleve, but I thought that turned into a bit of a dash for the line, which perhaps didn't suit him, but he was getting £6 from the others. And Strong Leader, who is not a Grade 1 horse, was only a length and a half away. He's 147 rated.
I had a similar kind of view about that race, but I thought it did turn into a dash, but I thought it turned into a dash quite early, which is why we were both there. Off the home turn, the first 2 horses kicked 3 or 4 lengths clear, didn't they?
And then they folded a bit.
And then they folded because they couldn't sustain the run. So I think it didn't suit, but did suit in the end. If that makes sense.
I see the angle of him.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if Harry Compton rode him again.
Yeah, we were saying that.
He was Sean Byrne's ride, and when he got the ride from Sam Wadey-Cohen, because Sam Wadey-Cohen obviously had the ride because it was his horse, they sort of suggest it was because Sean had a really good record round Aintree, which is what they were trying to do. So it'd be interesting to see where they go with that. Sir Gerhard for me is interesting. I mean, just because it would tickle me pink if TC put him up last year, I put him up this year and win, because I'm just cruel like that. But I do see the angle. He ran really well over fences when he fell. He jumped much better and he travelled like the horse I remembered. I think he'll stay. He was very impressive in the Ballymore in 2022, so he'd be interesting. And then Paisley Park isn't going to win it, but he's overpriced on every line of form in this race. He's overpriced, and he's old, and I've just said about 10-year-olds, so a bit hypocritical, but I'll definitely have a little bit on him, because if he did win it, it would just blow my mind. I'd like to be waving my slip saying, yeah, I knew. Bit of Twitter clout. But it's hard to have a really strong opinion. Probably Sir Gerhard would be my selection, because I think Cranber's got a little bit to do yet.
Just goes to show, with all of this in mind, how many layers there is to this race, which I quite enjoy. And I think with Sir Gerhard in there, you've got a horse that should have been in this race this time last year, but finally he's the Willie Mullins can see why. He's obviously more of a natural hurdler. Noble Yates, as you say, wonderful mind from Emmett Mullins to make a Grand National horse into a stairs hurdle horse, and I think we've got a confidence behind Home by the Lee, which I wasn't really expecting you to stay on that train, but let's see if...
I'm not the most loyal of people when it comes to punting, but I am with him. I don't know why.
I know.
He's not very aesthetically pleasing.
He's not.
No, he definitely isn't. They're going to hold you to that aesthetically pleasing.
Me or the horse? Both.
Depends how you do by the end of the Cheltenham week. To you, Pooh, for myself, I think that he's a horse. I'll just follow that bigger and better line. I think he was gaining. He just, as you say, didn't work out for him last year, and now, but his price is going to go now that Irish Point has been switched out for the champion hurdle. But that is the stairs, as we say. It is a race that's got plenty to it. Right, we're going to move on to the mares novice hurdle, which a lot have said is another a great race in terms of what we've got in terms of quality, and plenty to say what the mares division does for racing in general. And I think it's actually funny if you think about these mares ending up in some of those like Supreme, Gallagher, Albert Bartlett races, how they would add to it, because I do think this is probably the strongest of all the novice hurdles that they're out there. So that just goes to show. But rightly or wrongly, we have a race, and we've got a race where we've got three at the top of the betting that have been pretty much unflappable. Brighter Days Ahead, Jade Grugy, and Dysot Enos, who, Ross, interestingly, Virgil O'Brien, we've touched on him, campaigned this horse to make sure that she doesn't come into this with a £5 penalty. But she does have a official rating of 131. The handicapper clearly doesn't think that she's as good as they all make her out to be. Do you think that's a bit of an insult to what she's done?
No, because I think the form line suggests that's what she's at, but she's probably winning with a little bit in hand. She was really impressive when winning the Aintree bumper last year. Really good bit of training, isn't it, to deliberately set out to avoid the £5 penalty. So hats off to Virgil O'Brien. I actually tipped up Golden Ace at 33-1 anti-post in one of the SBK pieces. She was behind Dysot Enos in the Aintree bumper, but she's looked like a really slick hurdler. Won over 2 mile 3 first time out and beat Lucky Place, who ran well behind Gidley Park on trials day, and then coped with a penalty and a drop back in trip to win at round Taunton, which is a sharp track. Showed loads of gears. I really like her. She's still a decent each way sort of price. For me, Brighter Days Ahead is the horse here. I just think she's looked amazing in everything she's done. Dominant over 2 mile 5. Yes, she's dropping back in trip, but the new course will suit. Wouldn't mind a bit of rain on the Thursday for Fugitive and Brighter Days Ahead. She'll be ridden very positively by Jack Kennedy, which I like. We've caveated, obviously, Gordon Elliott's form is only 11%, but I did actually point out as well, he's having a lot of horses finish second and third. They're not sort of as obviously running below form as perhaps Nikki Henson's with all the pulled ups. But she's got the £5 penalty, but so is Jade de Grugy, who I just don't think is as capable of dropping back in trips. She's been sort of winning over a bit further than 2 miles as well. Dice Enos I really like, and I would love Fergal O'Brien to have a winner, but I think he's got a better chance of having a winner at Cheltenham. I think he might, if he has Crambo win, I think Dyson's got a better chance. Paddy Brennan is in the twilight of his career. Wouldn't be surprised if he won this if he didn't just say, that's me done, thanks a million. I think the end of the season would probably be the time, particularly given that Fergal's got Liam Harrison, Connor Brace coming through. Liam Harrison is mustard and deserves better chance than he's perhaps getting, but he's got to wait his turn. But Paddy is really emotional and clearly
thinks about it a bit much.
Thinks about it a lot, and is clearly so vested in Fergal O'Brien and so grateful for giving him an opportunity to go on. And I wonder and I worry that that emotion can cloud his judgment. I think it did when he put Q Card on the floor in the Gold Cup. I think he was overthinking. He didn't need to go between two horses, and he's admitted as such. He's going to have to challenge late because he's got the quickest horse. Brighter Days Ahead is going to be in front of him. And I worry that the desire and the want to get Fergal, his Cheltenham winner, is going to cloud his ability to be cool and calm and ice-like. And that's my sort of worry. And he isn't as stylish as he was. You know, he's clearly, you know, feeling his age a little bit, should we say. But he's like a sort of veteran sort of centre-back, isn't he? You know, he's not quite got the pace anymore, but he knows where he needs to be and when he's sort of wily. So I wouldn't knock him for that, but I just hope he's able to be as clinical as he needs to be if he's going to win. And for me, I think Brighter Days Ahead will be in front and she'll stay in front. I think she's the best horse in this by a distance.
And when you have a cool customer like Jack Kennedy, who just does no wrong.
He will ride the race he wants to ride. There's no doubt about that.
And he's going to want to make up for lost time after last year, definitely. Brighter Days Ahead, we'll have to remind everyone that I did put her up as one of my horses to follow at the beginning of the season, because actually I think we did our podcast after the 19th of October, so I think she had already run one, but I just loved her from the get-go. But I'm as a reminder, a sucker for Bloodstock, and she's out of a Matney who has produced some phenomenal horses.
It's not a bad family, is it?
It's not a bad family. They're grade one family, likes of Mighty Potter and French Dynamite, Caldwell Potter. They're all black type horses, and this one could be the best of all of them. And TC, they've talked about her like she can't get beat. This is Gordon Elliott's banker of the week, and he's not massively been overly confident about a huge amount. So I don't know whether you follow that in, if you think, you know, no, you're shaking your head, not into it.
I don't like when trainers say that, because it makes the price go, and then they're no bet. I mean, he said exactly the same thing about Sam Crow, and Sam Crow lost. So
yeah. At which stage? What? When after when he stuck to hurdling?
I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I looked at this race and it's a 2-horse race to me. I respect Fergal O'Brien. I think he's a very good trainer, but I just think Dice Enos needs to improve a great deal to beat either of the two Irish horses. Same kind of could be said for the Scott horse as well. So I think it's between the top two in the market. And actually, I think Jade de Grugy's done more than enough to be favourite in this race. So therefore, she has to be the bet because she's 5-2 and Brighter Days Ahead is 6-4. There's a point in it, so why not? I actually think the best piece of form in the race is Jade de Grugy's winning the SBK Solarina. Personally, I think that was a better performance. I could be wrong. Maybe Brighter Days Ahead has got more potential than Jade de Grugy. But I was impressed with how she kind of put that race to bed with a good turn of foot coming off the turn. And she jumps really fluently as well. Willie Mullins obviously was known for winning this race. At the start of after its inauguration, he won the first 5 or 6, didn't he, of this contest. Yeah. So Willie would always target a horse here. He knows how to win it. That's a pro. I think she should be. I think they should be joint favourites probably on potential. On RPRs, Jade de Grugy's £1 better on what we've seen so far. Because she's a bigger price, she's my bet.
I think Gordon Elliott was quite clever in that he was able to avoid a Willie Mullins bunch that he had in the Solarina, where he took Brighter Days Ahead to the Apples Jade Mares Novice Hurdle, where there was not one Willie Mullins runner. She did have a penalty to give away, and she was very impressive. But how he's managed to dodge that, so we'll find out on the day. It's quite interesting. So we don't really know maybe what she's been beating.
I think she's very much a hype horse. She could easily justify it. I'm not saying she can't. I'm not saying she's a loser in this race, she's not going to win, but she's definitely a hype horse. Her price has been contracted due to what has been said on social media.
Yeah.
One thing I'd say about TC selection as well is sort of in backing him up is we talk about connections, i.e. trainers and jockeys. Kenny Alexander and his Bloodstock team do buy very, very good mares and have been proven to do so time and time again. So that is when I was working the race out, it was certainly in the pros column, just the colours she runs in, given that she's a mare.
Yeah.
And just to touch more on hype horses, I know this might get a couple of people backs up, but on social media, when people talk about Langadan, for example, another classic hype horse, these horses are poor bets. People that know how to bet know they should not bet these horses because they're way too short. Langadan this year, I know we're not talking about the race, but Langadan this year, way too short on what he's done.
Yeah, well,
poor value.
And he won by half a length last year.
Trying to work out an angle. Could you not say that about Fat to File, Corbett's Cross?
Fat to File subsequently, since Tony Mullins' comments, fine. But I liked him prior to that. So I think that's actually his price hasn't contracted since Tony said words, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Still even money.
But they are the hype horses, aren't they? Interesting what you say, and whether they're going to be able to fulfil the hype. Some of them do, some don't. We'll find out. Jada Grugy for Ross, myself and TC.
Brighter days ahead.
Brighter days ahead for myself and Ross, and Jada Grugy for TC.
Yeah.
Okay, we've quite enjoyed Thursday. Fancy for the Pertemps, the Plate, or the Kim Muir? Again, Pertemps can be a muddle. The Plate as well. They're all a bit of a muddle. I think there should be some value around, Ross.
Yeah, so I put up Lemilos on the Tuesday pod after he ran at. He definitely didn't win at Ascot. Was it Ascot? Yeah, Ascot last time. And TC actually messaged me and said, I agree with that, but did you need to mention it? Because the price might short. He was 50 to 1 and he's still a good price now. Qualified, I think kind of by accident. They need to give him a run. He qualified finishing 3rd of 5 at Aintree. Hasn't been seen since. Charlie Todd rode him at Ascot. Given it was 2.5 miles, and this is a horse that stays really well, won the Hennessy, he was still swinging, turning in, and Charlie Todd did a brilliant job of running him up 2 blind alleys, got him off the bridle, didn't do a huge amount. He's significantly lower over hurdles than he is over fences. And I think he's the Dan Skelton Yard. I completely agree with TC about Langadan. I mean, that's just a crazy, silly price. But Skelton Yard are head and shoulders above anyone in the UK at targeting Cheltenham Festival races that they can win. And I think this is a really smart bit of placing. He was in the Kim Muir, he was in the Ultima. They've committed him to come here. And Nick Pearce, who's one of the assistants to Dan Skelton, actually thinks he's their best chance of the week.
Interesting.
So I think he's really exciting. In the Plate, I like Sharjah. I like horse with a bit of class in the festival handicaps. He's 20 to 1. He's not going to be good enough to win the Arkle. He's not going to be good enough to win the Turners. I think as he's got older, he stays. He likes this track. 20 to 1, I thought seemed a fair price for him. And Found On in the Kim Muir, if he goes there, I did speak to the Keithleys. They would prefer to go to the Ultima, but they might not get in which case they come to the Kim Muir, and they didn't have a jockey in mind yet, which is a bit of a concern because you might not then get one of the top amateurs. But there's plenty to choose from. So I thought Kim Muir for Found On, he's got really good course form. He would want the ground to dry out a little bit.
Okay, so Lemilos, I know you've got written down that price of you.
50. He was 50 to 1 anti-post. I think he's around 25, 33 to 1 now.
Okay.
Sharjah 20 to 1.
20 to 1.
Found On, I don't know what price he was, but he's a 20 plus to 1.
Okay, nice. Like that. Like Lemilos, follow the way that they've campaigned him, as you say. The Skelton team will do that with a lot of the handicappers, and we know how well that they've been able to pull that off, especially last year. Favois and Langadan. Yeah. TC?
Yeah, I was hoping Ross wasn't going to mention Lemilos again today. I wasn't going to mention him.
I'm a company man, TC.
You are. I've had a couple of quid on him. It was a non-diplomatic approach. He was a non-try last time. I actually think he's going to be targeted at a Chase, but I don't know which Chase. And this is obviously he's qualified for this, so why not? So I've had a few quid on him each way. But my more confident Pertemps final selection, and it's a race I love over the past few years. I always try to target one here. Not as confident as I have been with the likes of Cider Burley, but I do like this horse, and it's a Care Allen, similar colours same colours as Cider Burley, JP McManus. He doesn't want testing ground, so I do want it to stay dry. He hasn't been seen much this winter at all after he had a fair summer/autumn campaign, but it was super eye-catching, I thought, when he qualified for this back in November, and his mark looks very lenient to me on his juvenile hurdling form. I know horses don't always progress as a juvenile going older and they get against open company, but this just looks like a typical JP plan. And if he's anything like progressed £10, £5-10 since his juvenile form, he's very well handicapped in here. I only think he's about 8-1, which is a little disappointing given his form figures, but he is Willie Mullins and JP. So what do I expect?
Okay, Caroline. JP in general. What a week he's going to have. I know. I feel like we obviously say this every year, but this feels a lot stronger than he ever has done before. Maybe he's got even more horses than he ever has done before. I don't know what it is, but in general, across the board, this is his week to shine, and Thursday could be very much that. Okay, so Aker Alain to join Envoy Alain. So that's Bruno Van, who's the breeder. Goes all the way back. He names them all Alain, so you know that for that reason. Okay, that's next best for day 3 and the one of the betting days of the week, really. And I think we've all agreed that the Stayers Hurdle is adds to makes it a lot more fun this year in terms of what's on offer. So TC from you.
Yeah, the Allens, or Allens if you prefer. Envoy Alain in the Ryanair is my nap, and my next best is Aker Alain in the Pertemps.
Okay, brilliant for the French breds as well, and for you, Ross.
Brighter days ahead in the Mares and Facile Vega in the Turners, assuming he turns up and has pleased Mr. Mullins.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, looking forward to seeing brighter days ahead myself. I like Gakul. I'm probably butchering that for all the Irish listeners. For Ted Walsh, I think she should be suited by the setup of the Pertemps. So looking forward to seeing her in that. But as I said, brighter days ahead, been following her for some time. Okay, we are rattling through this. Just a reminder on that double winning offer, which SBK are offering, is a double winnings boost to use each day of the Cheltenham Festival. You can choose any horse, might be one that we have chosen. Is it Embassy Gardens? Is it Corbett's Cross? In any race each day, and you'll get paid out double the odds if you win. So that is 18 plus, max 6 do apply along with all the standard terms and conditions. We've got to the final day, Friday, guys. I think we're doing pretty well here in terms of time. Hopefully we're doing okay from the timing point of view. We want to keep it brisk, but also insightful, because we've spent a long time essentially going through the national hunt season as it is, and there are horses that we've been following, but we know that most of them have been targeted, and definitely when it comes to Gold Cup Day, that's what it's all about. So let's start, as we always do on the Friday, with the Triumph Hurdle. And now that Constitution Hill's gone, this is going to be all about Nicky Henderson's sort of shortest price horse of the week. So Gino, can he be beat, Ross?
Oh yeah, he can be beat.
Oh yeah,
because he's a 4-year-old, and you know that they'll all be improving at different rates, and he is in 7 barrows, and we know that certainly one horse, and you would then logically think a few horses are just a little bit under the weather, and that's just is what it is. And he can be absolutely tickety-boo this morning, and he might not be tomorrow morning, and that's just trading horses. And I really hope that the mainstream coverage do a job of explaining that, because it's just lacking. It's just people don't understand that yes, they were fine yesterday, and no, they're not fine today, because that's horses. And it frustrates me that people seem to think that, and you know, we've just spoken about Lemilos, you know, not putting his best foot forward last time, and there are occasions where people float between the lines, shall we say, but not everyone, not all of the time, and not about everything that's said. You know, sometimes things are said in absolutely the best sense and fullest meaning, and then things transpire overnight. Horses get cast in the box. That's when they lie down and they roll over, and they're so dull they forget they've got legs on the end of their body, and they get their lugs sticking onto the wall, and they can't get back up again. I mean, this is the level of intelligence you're dealing with at times with these horses. It changes. So yes, he's the right favourite. He's not a nice price now. If you're going in now, I think you're not finding any value in staking, you know, against logic in some ways, because you know the yard has got a bit of a question mark over form. I would wait until closer to the day and see what's happened with the runners through the week. But he didn't jump well on debut at Kempton, but he still won. And then he absolutely minced Burdett Road on trials day. He was just brilliant. He travelled, he jumped. James Byrne didn't want to get to the front too soon, but couldn't help it and got there, and he just went away up the hill and just never stopped. Burdett Road did pull a little bit keen, but he'd done that in all his races, so I wouldn't use that as a sort of reason why he underperformed. Maybe the presence of the third horse, Milantino, who's either rated 126 or 136, depending, you know, what the handicapper thinks. He was 136 on his French rating, which is multiplied the kilograms by 2, and they've got him dropped to 126 for the Boodles. But he's a solid horse. But Sergino just looked like a different class. He beat Salvatore Mundi, which has been put up as Willie Mullins' best juvenile at the start of the season, beat him at Auteuil. Adam Mills, actually the French guy, said that actually Salvatore Mundi had track position. So the fact that Sergino was able to beat him, in his mind, upgraded that performance. So yeah, he's the right favourite, but he's not a nice price. I'll play each way against him. Cargeese, Stormheart, Masborough and Bunting were the 4 Willie Mullins horses in the Spring Juvenile at the Dublin Racing Festival. Cargeese, I thought, got the best ride. She had the most experience. I think that was her 7th career start, including off the flat. Stormheart was the next most experienced, finished 2nd, and then Masborough was the least experienced, finished 3rd, and Bunting had only had 1 run on the flat and 1 run over hurdles. To me, he looked the most awkward, and he looked the one that was actually going to improve the most for learning to race. He had to come wide around the bend and quicken, and he sort of put his head right and hung in left, and so it was very hard for the jockey to really get him rolling. Stayed on really nicely. I think the new course, where there's only 1 hurdle in the last about half mile, will really suit him. Turn in early, he's got a straight line to run at. So even if he's a bit awkward turning in, there's a lot of time to get him organised. I think he'll finish really well. He's about 16-1. I think he might well reverse the form with those 3 Mullins horses. Might not be good enough to beat Sergino, but at 16-1, if you finish 2nd and got an each way play, you're going to get more money than if you back same stake on Sergino to win. So that's my angle on that.
Of all the races, this is the race where Willie Mullins' horses are the biggest prices, because there was no standout from that Spring Juvenile hurdle, as you said. There was a slightly confusing result. It didn't really give us anything to get worried about if you're in Sergino's camp. But Willie Mullins, his record speaks for itself, TC. 3 winners from the last 4 runnings. He just has a really strong hand. He's got a deep amount of runners in this race. So, and you just feel like he's probably still working them out. They're sort of finding their way, getting there. Sergino, he's done it at Cheltenham. I can't find really any reasons not to still be with him, but I think there is each way value.
Precisely that, yeah. I think Sergino's the clear standout on potential, and actually what he's achieved this year. As Ross said, he scampered up the hill. Last time he was super impressive. His finishing effort was the best part of the race. However, he is very short. 4-6 suggests a 60% chance of winning. Is that accurate? Probably not. Maybe a little bit less than 60%. So therefore, you have to oppose him from a probability point of view. I too looked at that juvenile race in Ireland. You mentioned the first 4 Willie Mullins horses home. I like the other one. Ethical Diamond finished 6th. Form figures are not attractive. 0-6, and he'll be overlooked because of that. But I went back and watched his form on the flat. He only had 3 runs on the flat. His 2 best runs were on better ground, yielding and good to yielding, which is very interesting. The 2 jumps runs have come on soft and heavy. I think if the ground dries up a bit throughout the course of the week, then he's going to be very much suited by it. And actually, last time in that juvenile contest in Ireland, he shaped way better than I think he's given credit for. He never looked like winning or really playing a part in the finish, but he still shaped nicely like a horse who was really learning his craft. And with Willie Mullins, he is the type that will get these horses to improve, especially the ones that people may doubt because he thinks, I'm Willie Mullins, I'm going to get this horse right up there. I think Ethical Diamond's every bit as good as the other 4 Willie Mullins horses that finished ahead of him. Maybe not Stormheart, but Stormheart I heard might not be coming over. So I'm taking a chance on Ethical Diamond. He's currently 25-1.
Yeah, it's wacky. It's a wacky suggestion because there is 50-1 in his last run.
Yeah.
You don't think that if they would have had any confidence in him, he would have been slightly shorter than 50-1?
He was 50-1 because he finished 11th of 19 on hurdling debut at 6-5. But it was on heavy ground and he jumped like a brick. It was awful that day. If you go back, I promise you, if you go back and watch that race on the flat for Michael O'Mara, who's not a trainer that many people will probably have heard of in Ireland, when he won at Limerick and beat a horse called Beechwood, he was so impressive on the flat. He's got a lot of talent.
But he needs to jump a hurdle. And I'm not sure he can
jumped better last time. He's 25-1.
Day 4, and you finally found that button on TV
Yeah.
to really get him going.
I'm just trying to work it out. I got home by the Lee. He's not been running great, but he's got the class. I'm just not certain that this is a natural jumper.
He's 25-1, so it's factored in, right? It's not like he's 5-1 and you don't think he can jump. So if he doesn't jump, he doesn't jump. But I think at the prices, he's a good each way alternative. Yeah,
and that was, give you credit, my tee-in. There's each way value around in this race. There normally is. So I think that it's good to find that here. And as TC suggested, Bunting, he's shown him definitely can jump a hurdle. He's around about 16-1. I follow that. we'll see. The jury's out, Ethical Island, but let's see. At a bigger price, 25-1. And Sergino, he deserves to be at the top of this betting for the Triumph Hurdle. Right, well,
can I just probably a race to see what Paul Townend rides, because logic would tell you he'll just jump on Cargis. If he doesn't, that's perhaps a really, whatever Paul Townend rides is a nod, but if he doesn't get off a horse that's been beaten to ride the horse that won at the Dublin Racing Festival, that suggests that at home things are changing and they're seeing some good signs for the one that he is riding.
Yeah, and that could be said the same for the Albert Bartlett, the next race, where reading Tommy wrong, can you imagine Darryl will be riding, but will Paul want to give up the opportunity to ride a favourite? I mean, it's favourite in terms of it's at the present 7-1 the field for the Albert Bartlett. So there's nothing strong standing out, but Dancing City is Willie Mullins, High Class Hero is Willie Mullins, and there's also the likes of Lecky Watson in there as well. So Paul's decision in this race might be sort of affect the betting, if anything. This, from years gone by, TC has been a race that just can't quite work out. It's normally the unobvious one. Yeah. Stay away fair. I don't think we even contemplated him this time last year. Might have been different if Corbett's Cross didn't run out. But the Nice Guy was a big price for Willie Mullins, hadn't shown a huge amount.
By Jess Stafford.
Thank you for remembering. I really tried to find a horse of that ilk, sort of a big framed horse. It surprised me a little bit. I'm not sure if there is an obvious one here. Horses like Reading Tommy Wrong, Ross and High Class Hero, they've done plenty of running to know where we're at with them.
Yeah, I mean, years gone by, it was you wanted the horse that had 10 runs and had run in handicaps and just could get down and get dirty and be a bit gnarly. It's changed a bit in later years, hasn't it? I really like High Class Hero. I think he's almost got a bit of a blend of both. He's had 4 hurdle starts, which is a bit more than 1 or 2, obviously. But I think he's classy as well. And his runs, he's stepped up bit by bit in trip. I think it was 2 mile 3 to 2 mile 5 to 2 mile 6. And every time he stepped up, to me, he looks like he's improved. And he's never winning hard held on the bridle canter. His closing fractions are really powerful. I think this track, and by track I mean Cheltenham with the hill and the new course, are going to suit him. And I like he's by Suleimani. I had I say pleasure of meeting Suleimani. He was a savage stallion. He was like, you can meet Suleimani, but don't get within 10 foot because he will have you. Slightly unheralded, stood at Yorton, moved around a little bit. But Sire of Honeysuckle, and Sire Rule the World as well, who won a Grand National, puts plenty of stamina and plenty of fight into them, which I think you're going to want. Tough stayer. So I do like High Class Hero. I mentioned Gidley Park. I just think if he runs here, I'd be really worried he'd be pulled too hard and be too immature for this sort of test. The Jukebox Man I tipped for the Challow Hurdle, finished 3rd. I thought he got a bit lost between the last 2 hurdles at Newby, where it gets quite wide, and he sort of wandered around a little bit, and then to my mind was closing again at the line in what I think was probably quite a good Challow. Captain Teague won it. I had Keelan Woods on the podcast on Tuesday, which would be worth a watch. He came off and he said, I'm sorry, I'm not very good at those things. And I said, actually, you're really good at them, because the thing that makes you good is you don't give me a stock answer. You actually almost get a bit taken aback by your answer and think about actually what you think and what you want to say, rather than telling me what you think you should say. I thought he had a real glint in his eye when he spoke about this horse. He said you can see us striding him from 10 strides out. He's an immaculate jumper. You can ride him anywhere you like. He'd love a bit of rain for him, but he doesn't think it's essential, but he just thinks he handles it better, and it can't be enough for a stamina test for him. And he said he's not saying he would have won the Challow, but he wishes in hindsight that when the horse hung, he challenged on the other side of Captain Teague. That made me think that he thinks there's a bit more to come. So I came off. I'd already liked the horse, and I came off the interview thinking that I wasn't far wrong, and he might just be that sort of big unheralded dour stayer from the Ben Pauling yard that is going to run. If there's rain around, I think he'll definitely give you a running at around about 25-1.
Okay, so the Jukebox Man, who was a real eye catcher, as you say, and clearly has been kept fresh, kept back. Like Ben Pauling has definitely angled this, as we said earlier, a lot of his horses. Right, so 25-1, you can get him. TC, what do you think?
I have a pretty terrible record in this race. My record is abysmal. I put up Vanillier to win 3 years back, but apart from that, it's been a complete barren spell. So there's not a race where I'd be having anywhere near my biggest bet at the festival. But I thought Dancing City deserves to be the favourite in the race personally. I presume Darryl will be on Reading Tommy Wrong, as you say, and I think Paul will be on High Class Hero, which, to your point, with High Class Hero, should mean he's probably going to be your favourite in this race rather than 8-1 joint second right now. So there might be a bit of value there on him. But I think Dancing City, who should be Danny Mullins, has the best profile personally. I know he doesn't have the string of ones that the other two do, but last time up, I thought he was very good. I actually watched that race at the DRF, and I thought Predator's Gold was the best horse. But then I watched it in hindsight, and actually, I think Dancing City was the best horse. I think I just kind of I didn't bet Predator's Gold, but I think I was thrown by the jockey bookings thinking that Predator's Gold should have won. Yeah. And there was maybe a little bit of interference, but Dancing City was actually more impressive than I thought in first time around. The extra distance will definitely suit him. I think the better ground will suit him as well. And his jumping is slowly improving. So there's more potential for him to progress than the other two Mullins horses, in my opinion. But as I say, tentative, Dancing City.
Okay. Yeah. For that, I think like they can't really work them out either. I would say, look, this is, as Ross kindly said, is a race that I enjoyed finding the nice guy at a big price. Couldn't really, as I said, work that out from last year, but there were two. I just think if Largy Hill ends up in here, I know he only ran at the end of February, and Willie Mullins has said that in the race that he won, it's not normally a prep race for Fairyhouse, for Cheltenham. It's normally a prep for Fairyhouse or prep Punchestown. But he beat a very smart horse in Staffordshire Knot. So if he does turn up, it's because they're really pleased with him at home and they think that they shouldn't avoid the opportunity in what could be a very open division. So Largy Hill and then Shanger Bob for Nicky Henderson. Nicky's got a very poor record in this. The only time he's won this is with Bob's Worth. He's a very interesting sort. We haven't seen him for a long time. They've kept him fresh for whatever reason. Form is okay without being special, but horses behind him have won. So this is value in this race. So I think
Plumpton, he won on a track that he had no right to enjoy at all.
Yeah. So, and look, he's got the Cheltenham form. So this is a few options there for you here in the Albert Bartlett. Right, we've got to the big one, the Gold Cup. Been looking forward to previewing this race all season, really. And I think in times gone by, we probably only had a couple of horses in here. It's definitely a very strong renewal. Galloping Champ looking to make it back-to-back successes. Fast or Slow has beaten him in here. Shishkin in a rightful place in the Gold Cup. He should have been in it last year, people say. Jerry Colomb still gives me nightmares and heartbreaks, and he was my horse to win the Gold Cup earlier this season. I'm not feeling too confident about that anymore. L'Empresse is one of the leading hopes from a British perspective. And then you've got the stories such as Hewick, who's got Jordan Gainford back on board. So the Gold Cup, let's not try and make this really straightforward, guys.
Put me first then, because I am going to make it straightforward.
Because I know that he's absolutely sublime, Gallagher Deschamps. What he did in the Savills Chase is one of the performances from a staying chaser in
Why is it
recent
not
times.
Straightforward then?
Because I just really like the race. I want it to be more interesting from a betting angle, but it's not. Exactly. It's just not.
I give me Galopin Deschamps at 5-4 every day. Every day. That tells me 44% chance of winning. I think it's miles more than that. This horse this year is proven to be the best, has he not?
Yeah, no, certainly.
I mean, look, there were good horses in there. It's a good race. It is a good race. Hewick, I can't see winning, but if he's ridden prominently, he could play a part. Brave Man's Game, controversial. I don't think he stays the trip at Cheltenham. I know people disagree. I also don't think he's good enough. L'Empresse was disappointing last time off a weird kind of prep. Shishkin will be a phenomenal story, but he's just too enigmatic now to beat Galopin Deschamps, in my opinion. Jerry Colomb was pumped by Galopin Deschamps. Fast or Slow's beaten him this year, but over a shorter trip. Why does Galopin Deschamps not win this race?
No,
I can't find a negative. I couldn't find one.
I would, you have to think that this is, laid out for him for all those reasons. Yeah. Just L'Empresse in this race adds to it. They're very demure and modest about his credentials. I just think L'Empresse and Shishkin adds something, a dimension that he hasn't faced before.
Shishkin definitely. If he's on a day where he's properly running to his best, then Shishkin could play a part.
Okay.
L'Empresse, I don't like the prep. He lost last time. He's had obviously a long break coming into this year, and Venetia's form. I said it about 5 or 6 weeks ago. It's been terrible.
She's picked up again. She's definitely picked up again.
Because I looked when I was writing the piece, she's up to 17%. So I couldn't have her as flying.
In
my head, I thought she was.
They get it.
I mean,
at Leicester.
Yeah, well, she won a race yesterday. We're filming this on Wednesday. She won a race yesterday that completely fell apart with a horse that got up on the line. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't love the form.
Fine. I just want to make it a bit more interesting, guys. It's not as obvious as the Gold Cup, for goodness sake.
And it's the best Gold Cup since, I don't know when. I've not got a good memory of things like that. I'm delighted TC thinks that 5-4 and 44% chance is good, because I tipped him up at 6-4 in a anti-post piece the 2 weeks after the festival last year. When he got beat at Punchestown, I got the inevitable Twitter fans pointing it out to me. And I'd like to point out I have got all your names, all your Twitter handles. If he wins at 5-4 shorter, you will all be getting the thumbs up emoji from me. He is a generational talent as a staying chaser. I can completely forgive his poor performances at Punchestown, both at the end of last season, beginning of this season. It was, I don't know how many times I've gone back and watched that Savills Chase. It was just incredible. I get that he was perhaps on the best part of the track, but it didn't make any difference. He was just much better than these. I do think you're right that, so he's beaten Fast or Slow. I think he'll confirm that form. I don't get that people say that Fast or Slow is a better jumper and track is going to suit. Fast or Slow couldn't beat Correct Rambler in the Ultima last year, so I don't see how this track all of a sudden triggers this massive improvement. It's going to see him overhaul Galopin Des Champs. Jerry Colombe is slow, as I've said, right from the off.
Poor old Jerry, yeah.
And Gordon Elliott has now said that instead of it being a bog, it gives him his best chance. Oh, actually, I think he's better on better ground. He just looks slower on better ground, as far as I'm concerned. Brave Man's Game beat last year, beat him again this year. Hewick was in there pitching. He wouldn't have been in the, he wouldn't have been beating Galopin Des Champs last year. So it is, for me, the 3 UK trained horses.
Your old friend Shishkin,
who I tipped up anti-post at 10-1, and I tipped up Correct Rambler anti-post at 25-1. So I'm quite happy with my position. Shishkin stays and he jumps, and Galopin Des Champs had his race won, landing from the back of the last year, and Brave Man's Game, me and TC disagree. I understand his point of view that Brave Man's Game didn't stay. I think he stayed. He just didn't stay as well as the winner, which is actually the same in any race, isn't it? The winner stays the best. Shishkin will make Galopin Des Champs go all the way to the line as hard as he can. And if there's a crack in him, I think Shishkin might be the one to find it. My slight concern is I have no issue with the track for Shishkin at all, because he's won twice there. But he ran badly in the Champion Chase. Okay, there was a problem found, and he then looked really unhappy there last year. They talk about him being an intelligent horse. I've had event horses that have had a problem at a water jump at an event in the country, can go 2 or 3 other events, and I've rectified the water with practicing at home and all that sort of stuff, and they're fine. They go back 3 months later, having done 4 or 5 different competitions, and come to the same fence and say, no thanks. They remember. And I just have it in the back of my head that maybe he won't be at his best at this track anymore. But that's the only problem I have with him. I don't care what the ground is. He stays. Nico will ride him as if he stays. He'll make Galopin Des Champs go. Loads of pace in the race, I think. They're all going to, they're going to ride Galopin Des Champs forward this year, I think, aren't they? Because they're not going to want
or try to.
Or certainly be more forward than they were last time, which kind of worked out for them last time, but still have an awful lot to do. I think Correct Rambler might be the one to run home for a place, because normally the problem with the Gold Cup is it's a small field and he likes a big field and coming between horses and arriving there late. Well, actually, he's going to get that in this Gold Cup. So I like him at 25-1. He's a bit shorter now, but he's a really classy horse and he stays very well. L'Empresse, I wouldn't be as cool on him as TC. I don't mind the fact that he jumped out to his left at Ascot, because I'd have put my house and the kids' savings on the fact that he wouldn't have won last time, and he would have jumped out to his left and done it more as the race went on, because that's what he's done every time. I just have a little bit of a concern about the fact that he has looked lazy. He struggled to lay up early to protect her at Lingford and the Fleur-de-Lys on slow ground.
He was rusty that day, though.
He was rusty, but then he, when he jumped off, and Charlie Deutsch got absolute pelters on social media for the ride, and I defy anyone to tell me what he would do differently. He was sat in the saddle driving him to the first fence, like you see jockeys driving a horse to the last fence. His arms were never off the horse's neck. They were on the neck, moving away, trying to keep him going. I worry that he's got a bit lazy and he'll be too far back. But then if I like Correct Rambler because he's going to finish late, maybe L'Empresse will finish late as well. But I just don't love the prep. I I worry that Charlie Deutsch's confidence in the horse has taken a little bit of a dent for the fact that he's not travelled as well as he has.
Got an exceptional record when he gets to Cheltenham, though.
Yeah.
And
so Galopin Des Champs is the likeliest winner,
Definitely.
for certain. But I'm happy with my anti-post position on Shishkin and Corrit Rambler. And if you haven't read the articles or listened to the Tuesday podcast and not followed them in, I think they're both still at a price. Shishkin now 6-1. It's still a each way price, isn't it?
yeah, I think totally.
And Corrit Rambler's 20-1, so still at an each way price. And I think those are the two logical angles for me.
Yeah, Shishkin, I think, adds so much sort of spice to this race, which we didn't really have last year. Beating Brave Man's Game as he did, it doesn't look brilliant now, does it? But what he's done this season in Ireland has been exceptional, but he hasn't seen horses like Shishkin and Lompresto when he's at his very, very best. So Shishkin, pleased that he's here, and I'm happy to have him as an each way angle, at least to be probably just behind Galopin Des Champs as a 1-2.
What I would say is there's only two horses that I think can run to a mark of 175 or higher. They are Shishkin and Galopin Des Champs.
Absolutely.
Brave Man's Game's done it before, but I don't think he's capable on this track. So I think it's between the two.
Progressed.
And in my opinion, Galopin Des Champs still improving. Shishkin's at a level. Galopin Des Champs already surpassed him, career best.
Does Fat to Far beat Galopin Des Champs this time next year?
Come back to me in 12 months.
You're much more of a numbers man than me. If Shishkin had stood up, and obviously that's an if, do you not think he would have run virtually a career best in the King George?
Probably, yeah. But his career best RPI, I think, is 177. Galopin Des Champs 184 in this race last year. I don't think he would have run over 180. I mean, he could.
That was 3 miles on Kempton.
Yeah.
I think this Gold Cup trip on Cheltenham, I think we're going to look back at him when he's finished, whether he wins this or not. We'll look back and think, how did this horse have the boot to win an Arkle?
Incredible. Quite. And they've always seen him as being such a fast horse, but actually he's bred back to breeding. He's bred to do this. Look, guys, Gold Cup is Galopin Des Champs. I think we've had a bit of fun discussing it, regardless of it going back to the favourite in the end. We're going to crack on. We'll get through the rest of it because we've come to the point where we wanted to make this as a good, succinct amount of time for what it is. 4 days of looking through horses. The Mare's Chase we'll touch on now. Any big opinions from Ross or TC?
Dyna Blue should win the race. That's my opinion. I mean, she got within 8 lengths of El Fabiolo. A similar kind of performance will win, but she's no price. I won't be having a bet in the race.
It's okay because they all listened to me and took the 7-1 anti-post when the ultimate preview pod. So yeah, Dyna Blue, I hope she wins. She'd be a nice result.
Yeah.
Professionally and personally for the week. She has got to prove she stays, but she probably, Limerick Lace is the proven stayer, but she's £12 inferior. Allegory de Vassi is of a similar caliber, but there's similar sort of stamina issue about her.
And jumping as well.
And jumping. And I just think Dyna Blue is solid jumper. Like TC said, she's the class angle. Yeah. She might not have to have optimum conditions to still be able to win this.
Yeah, I do think she should do. Although I did sort of this time last year I was disappointed with like Allegory de Vassi. She looks like she's come forward a little bit better.
Changed how he trains her and been harder on her, and he thought that showed some improvement. And you've got to listen to when he says these sort of things.
I just think the price is, I think with that in mind, not really knowing from our point which one's better, but actually price suggests I think they know that Dyna Blue's a lot better than Allegory de Vassi.
There's been 3 renewals of this race, 2 9-4 winners, 1 15-8 winner, 2 trained by Willie Mullins, 1 owned by JP.
Yeah, there we go. And Dyna Blue owned by the man JP. He's going to clean up. Yeah, we don't need to worry about who's paying for the restaurant bill on Friday night. Right, we're going to get to the handicaps on the Cheltenham Festival final day. We've got the county, got the Foxhunters, where we'll get to first. Martin Pipe as well, but the Foxhunters last year, Ross, your finest hour. Premier Magic, can he do it again?
Yeah, I mean, he's not 66-1 this year, but he's overpriced. Ferns Lock, I don't see how he stays this trip at all. Had Bradley Gibbs on the Tuesday podcast, actually. He was really good. I sort of asked him, why do you just run him in point to points? Like, why don't you go and point to points they're running for 250 quid? Why don't you go and pick up a couple of Hunter Chases? And he said, I want him to have the easiest time he possibly can. So he arrives there feeling like King Kong. He's won both his point to points without cheek pieces on. And he said he goes through the race doing a half speed, gets to the front and wanders all over the place. But he's been like that since day one. It's just him. Cheek pieces to go back on. He'll ride him wide. So he didn't run well 2022. He said, I tried to ride him down the inner and be a jockey. He said he just is a bit small, backed out of it a bit, didn't enjoy it. I took him wide last year. He said this horse stays 4 miles, so he'll be positive like he was last year, and they'll have to come and, if he gets outstayed, he gets outstayed. But he said he's going there. Because I said, lots of horses are returning to Cheltenham, having won impressively last year as short price favourites. You're not even third favourite when we spoke. He said, have you seen it? And he said gives him every feel. He has no reason to think he's an inferior horse this year to last year. So I like him. Trying just, because I'd like to repeat it, trying to find another one at a big price. Scene Nominee. Trained by Fiona Needham, who won this in 2002 on last option, also owned by her father, who owns this one. Absolutely sluiced up at Wetherby on soft ground and beat Benny's King. And you look at it and think, great, that's all right. Benny's King came out at Leicester, won by 21 lengths, absolutely demolished them. Gives the form a good look. She'll need soft ground. She's run well at Cheltenham on good ground, but got a little bit outpaced in the closing stages over these sort of trips at the Hunter Chase meeting in April, which I say every time, if you've not been, go. It's a brilliant evening out. And it's ridden by Chris Dawson, who runs Nunstainton Stud up north. They stand some nice National Hunt Stallions. I see this as the Amateurs Gold Cup. That's what it's called. I'd love it to go to another amateur. So I'd have a few pound on her. She's going to get weight, obviously, and she's a smart mare. She wouldn't want the ground to be lively, but I don't think it will be.
Okay, and Vincent de Sang, who, as I said earlier, keep an eye on him. Anything else for any of the other handicaps?
In the county, I had a Birico Lord, but we've just, as we're recording this, he's been supplemented for the Champion Hurdle. You don't supplement for a horse unless you're going to run them. So that's wiped out an anti-post bet for Iberico Lord. Maybe then they'll bring Under Control in, because I got the vibes last week that Under Control was maybe going to miss Cheltenham and go elsewhere. And I heard someone say that Nico de Boinville had hatched a plan. I love Nico, but I wish he'd keep his plans to himself, because I'd like her to run in the county. I think she's really well handicapped. But there was obviously a reason that she didn't run in the Moor battle. In all the transparency we had from Mickey Henderson, they were a little bit cloak and dagger that it wasn't lameness, but she was withdrawn on veterinary advice, was the official line on the BHA page. Westport Cove has looked really impressive. He's really keen, but a strong pace for a novice. They have to have 4 runs now, don't they? So the handicapper gets a bit more of a grip on him. But I thought definitely the time before last, I think he could have beaten the horse that won, trained by Willie Mullins. And I think Mikey O'Sullivan was perhaps not at his best to not win. Favour and Fortune, I tipped up at 50-1 for the Supreme. And if he runs there, I would still give him a chance, because I think he's been doing really good things on ground that doesn't particularly suit him, but it sounds like off a mark of 128, I think it is, that they perhaps lean into coming here. So he'd have to be on the list. And in the Martin Pipe, built by Ballymore, is a really smart horse for the future. But if the ground was soft, it wouldn't be slow enough for him. He needs it to be heavy. So he needs, like we had the day of the bumper last year, he needs soft ground at the start of the day, and then it just to rain all day. He'd be interesting in this. If it doesn't do that, No Ordinary Joy off just £1. No Ordinary Joe off just £1 higher. And we've already mentioned Encanto Bruno. And then Nusret, who is owned by Jane McGiven with Joseph O'Brien. This horse stays really well on the flat. It's only run over 2 miles. He needs a sound surface. He's yet to run over further than 2 miles over hurdles. I think he's really interesting handicap. Joseph O'Brien's got a good record with a small team, so he'd be one of interest as well.
Okay, good selections for Friday's handicaps. There's plenty on offer. Always like to end on a high with the Martin Pipe. And obviously the Foxhunters has been very good to us, got a lot of insight from that sphere. And TC, what have you got for us?
Just one for the Martin Pipe. Sama Jest is a classic hype horse. All over X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. So I'm opposing him. He's way too short. May win. Probably won't. I like Encanto Bruno as well. 20-1 roughly right now. Look, I think he's good value no matter if he gets beaten by 40 or wins by 40. He's a horse that should be a lot shorter in the market, maybe 12, 10-1, on the back of a victory in November where he sauntered up at Cheltenham. Literally, how many horses do you see win on the bridle at Cheltenham? Very few. I think Gavin Cromwell's been very tactical in the way that he's placed this horse ever since. He's dropped £1 to a mark of 139. He's just very well handicapped. If the ground turns on the good side, especially, I'll be keen on him.
Yeah.
Okay, and Cantabruno, a lot of confidence for him from both Broth and TC in the Martin Pipe. Right, okay, I think we've got to nearly the end now. My one selection for the handicaps of the county, Impostoir. I really hope he sneaks in now that we know Berico Lord's going. He's another JP horse. He won at Cheltenham in November with Nico on board. 2 very solid runs in competitive handicap since, including that race before Christmas behind Lucia, and then 3rd in the Lanzarote, which is a great piece of form. He does need a few to come out, but I think he's just a classic unexposed horse in the county hurdle. Right. We need a Napa next best for Friday, and then we're going to end off with the festival nap next best and place play. So we've got, and I'm kind of nearly guessing in my head who's going to go for what after the strength of selections and the strength of the reasonings behind them. So I think there are a couple that TC is sort of frothing at the mouth for. So who are they going to be? Your first of all, your Napa next best for Friday, and then your nap next best and place play for the festival.
So on Friday, my nap is Galopin des Champs in the Gold Cup. I think he's pretty much, well, he's not a good thing, but he should be shorter than he is. I think he should be odds on. And my next best is in Canto Bruno in the Martin Pipe, if the ground gets on the good side of things. And then festival nap next best, place play. The nap is Factor Fire in the Brown Advisory. And I'm not going to put up an even money shot as a nap and a 6 to 5 as the next best. So I left Galopin des Champs out of it, but I am very confident on him. My next best instead is Envoy Hélène in the Ryanair, because I think he's a good price. And then my place play is again in Canto Bruno in the Martin Pipe, if it turns good. Or on the good side, not good.
Okay, Factor Fire, even money, Envoy Hélène 7-2, and Canto Bruno 18-1. So we like that. And for you, Ross?
So day 4 nap, Gold Cup day nap is Dino Blue is the nap. Next best is Galopin des Champs. I agree with TC. And then my nap of the week is Factor File in the Browns. My next best of the week is Ballyburn. Full stop. Whichever race he goes in. And then my place play is Lamilos in the Pertemps.
So my Cheltenham Festival top picks, my nap is going to be Brighter Days Ahead in the Mares at Novice Hurdle. She's a mare I've been following all season. She's been well campaigned by Gordon Elliott, and I think she's going to take a lot of beating in the Mares at Novice Hurdle. My next best will be Envoy Hélène in the Ryanair Chase to win back-to-back victories. Also put up by TC. We both agree that he's got the best form and he's going to play a massive part again in this race. And then the place play comes in the Coral Cup. Ballyadam, for the same owners as Envoy Hélène, Cheveley Park, and they've got this horse quite well rooted out for this race, been kept chasing, and I think that he'll be quite interesting now back over hurdles again with a race at a race course that he likes very well. So that's Ballyadam, and that's mine for the Cheltenham Festival. Just another reminder that new customers get a free bet. Bet £10, get £30 in free bets. You can claim £30 in free bets for the Cheltenham Festival, and make sure that you read the T's and C's, and that's the same supply for the double winnings offer, the double winnings boost you use each day of the Cheltenham Festival. You can choose any horse in each race and you'll get paid out at double the odds if they win. All left to say is may the best man win. I think Embassy Gardens Corbett's Cross will be one of the highlights from my perspective. Factor File, he's got a big run in him. Let's hope we see some classic horse racing, some great days, and we hope that you enjoyed the racing. Thanks to Ross and thanks to TC, and we will see you very soon.